Chapter 571, Inner Sect Quakes. Chapter 571, Inner Sect Quakes. It's insane. They've all gone crazy. Venerable Shur was enjoying the cooling breeze in his courtyard. So peaceful, so quiet. Then a shriek broke his relaxation. It was the second elder, all enraged and panting. What's up with the perv? He's always indulging himself whenever he gets the chance, so why is he so peeved? Venerable Shur raised a mocking eyebrow. Second elder, what has gotten you so testy? Venerable Shur, I'm not angry at you. It's this darn situation. Second elder gesticulated, finding it hard to quell his rage. Those hussies of mine have asked me to let them go to the labor office. You tell me if it warrants anger or not. And to think that I made an exception when taking them in to help them become inner disciples. Yet now, they've just left me. Labor office. Venerable Shur squinted. Have I lost it? No matter how lustful and whiny you are, neither is bad enough to choose the labor office over you. Are they just throwing a tantrum? No, Venerable Shur. In fact, the labor office. They've all gone mental. Another person rushed over and shouted his indignation. They watched a tall and buff man roaring. Venerable Shur was even more perplexed now. Seventh elder, what happened to you? What else? It's that damn labor office. Seventh elder was blowing a gasket. Second elder had found his soul mate in plight and asked him, your disciples came crying to send them to labor office as well. Come crying? That would have been way better. Seventh elder flicked his sleeve. Those brats are demanding it. They all want to go to the labor office. And what about me? How can I be a respected member of the elder community without proper disciples? Of course I refused, but those brats stole my pills and ruined my home. They were doing all kinds of crimes, one bigger than the last. Now I've locked them up to reflect. Ugh, I'm outraged. Venerable Shur listened to their rants and grew unsettled by the second. What on earth happened? Why have inner disciples flipped with no rhyme or reason? Venerable Shur, you still don't know. The two sighed, and the second elder explained. Labor office has an aberration, throwing out pills and treasures like garbage, and even establishing some elite labor office. As long as a labor passes his tests, they'll get treasures and pills, resources even. They get more stuff than even an elite. The news has made the disciples lose their minds, all coming up with strange plans to get punished and be sent to labor office. This fight is harsher than even in the inner sect competition. Venerable Shur's face fell, and he frowned. Labor office again. Sect leader has played his hand, I see, and he played it big. Sect leader. The two cried. Venerable Shur was certain. It must be him, or how else can the labor office without any backbone cough up so many things and upset the sect's peace? Sect leader is planning to use the lower rung to crush the higher ones, to aim for us. You two, convene with the elders and venerables. Let's see just how far is sect leader going to take it. Venerable Shur's eyes flashed, and the two cupped their hands. Yes. Dang. The ringing spread across the inner sect, and the oldies rushed to the hall. Xie Wuyue frowned, walking over as well. The place was packed. Who called for this meeting? Xie Wuyue took his rightful seat and demanded an explanation. The copper bell can only be rung in times of great crisis, unless the sect leader does it himself. Have you forgotten, or is the sect in grave peril? Xie Wuyue's icy words made everyone shrink and stammer. Venerable Shur stepped forth with a bow. Sect leader, I have rung it. There's an urgent matter in need of your attention. And what might that be? A siege? Xie Wuyue raised an eyebrow. Venerable Shur shook his head. Inner chaos is more pressing. The unity of our people will brave any dangers. Demon scheming sect will survive, which makes this inner trouble a pressing matter. We have to settle it before it affects our safety. What could have happened to be so critical that it would lead to our destruction? Xie Wuyue had a savage look staring down at Venerable Shur. Venerable Shur's eyes turned to his fellow oldies. Elders, venerables, how many disciples are exhibiting odd behavior? How many are talking about going to the labor office? I've lost half of my disciples, and it won't be long before I have none left. A grizzled old man spoke with pain, then another one mocked. You fool, just refuse. You're the fool. If I refused, who knows what they'd do, who'd they piss off? I used to scare them with labor office threats, but now they'd accept it on the spot. Yeah, my disciples are going crazy as well, shirking all responsibilities. What am I supposed to do? Labor office is the latest fashion all of a sudden. Everyone is dying to go there. The old-timers devolved into a clamor, a pissing contest for who had it worst. It was a greater havoc than when Monkey King ran amok in heaven. What used to be a drive for the disciples to get into the inner sect had turned 180 degrees and become a drive to plunge into the labor office, and the blow that hurt the most was labor office being out of these old-timers' control. They would lose all power in a matter of days and wouldn't be able to do anything about it. The disciples no longer gave a damn about them, and this was a crushing blow to their ego. Eyeing the crestfallen veterans, Xia Wuyue hid a smirk. This was exactly why he brought Zhuo Fan over, to curb their greedy nature. Give it a few more days, and the inner sect will collapse. Venerable Shi turned to Xia Wuyue with a bow. Sect leader, do you see? In a state such as this, the environment is no longer suited to promote learning and nurturing. With the entire balance turned upside down, it will soon spread to the entire sect, until the sect is no more. What will you have me do then? Xia Wuyue smiled. Venerable Shi bowed. Sect leader, remove that so-called elite labor office's false name and reorganize the labor office. Please, sect leader, reorganize the sect. Uphold the rules. The other oldies echoed. Xia Wuyue laughed in their faces. I will uphold the rules indeed. But with the labor office being the lowest rung of the demon scheming sect, it hasn't seen administration in ages, leaving it to run its course. And if a man of great talent were to come out of it, he would be just like High Venerable. It is the only hope for all those criminals, where a great merit will lift them above this wretched station. This is the sect's rule, our rule. Touching the labor office equals relinquishing all that we stand for and our ancestors. Xia Wuyue's icy glare drove a shiver down their spines. Going against their ancestral teachings was a heavy crime for them. As well, demons had no ethics, but for their sect, they had to have rules or chaos ruled. Everyone shook their heads at the sect leader's stance. He had no intention of helping them deal with the labor office. In fact, he was against it 100%. They were free to try, but would suffer the consequences. Some elders who were thinking of causing a scene at the labor office perished this thought on the spot. Venerable Shi stood up at Xia Wuyue's side, having seen this coming. Only his eyes flashed. Venerable Shi is right about one thing. Everyone aims for a higher standing. If you can't even get a hold of your disciples, how will you go any higher? Ha ha! Xia Wuyue left with a self-righteous grin, strutting out of the hall and leaving the oldies choking on their words. Chapter 572. Poaching. Chapter 572. Poaching. The sinister laughter echoed among the old-timers who were bearing dark faces. As if a storm clouded their lives, Venerable Shi smiled at them. See, sect leader has made his stance clear. It goes to show that he had a hand in it, all directed at us. Letting this devolve any further will leave us penniless. They all nodded, yet someone asked in doubt, but the flood of resources coming from the labor office to train the disciples isn't stopping. As the sect's resources have to pass through us before being dispatched, how exactly did the sect leader fork out such a huge amount to strike back at us? Venerable Shi pondered and shook his head. It eludes me as well. But one thing remains unchanged. We can't let the labor office's attraction go on. As we don't know the full extent of those resources, no matter how we regulate the sect's resources, it won't affect the labor office. What worries me is that when we are left with no disciples, sect leader will use this as an excuse to take control of our rightful resources. That remark hit right where it hurt them the most, and the old men were wrought by pressure. Taking away their resources was akin to crippling their status, and the sect leader's drastic move is ingenious. Second elder exclaimed. The rest snorted and nodded. Venerable Shi's eyes were constantly moving. Yes, sect leader did use a great move, but can't we do the same and beat him at his own game? What do you mean? Everyone asked with a crafty glint in his eyes. Venerable Shi began. Sect leader has put out this elite labor office as a bait to draw our disciples in. But as long as we settle our own disciples, it loses its effect. And as the labor office's resource upkeep keeps rising, it will soon run out of fuel and no disciples will approach. It will ruin his plan for good. Let's see who lasts the longest. Brilliant. Seventh Elder gave a thumbs up. We'll just play the waiting game, and one day it'll run out. And then chaos will follow with him, crying, "Ha ha." Seventh Elder's laughter echoed in the hall, infecting the others to do the same. If sect leader thinks he can steal our rights, he'll have another thing coming. But then someone said, "How do we stop disciples from going to labor office, though?" It might work for a short time, but not forever. The startled folks turned to the frowning Grand Elder. How were they going to handle their disciples? Venerable shook his head, his eyes flashing murder. "We set a precedent. If the disciples don't hear reason, we'll kill a couple, and they'll all fall in line." Heart sinking, the other oldies looked around, awkward. It wasn't that they couldn't, since they were demonic cultivators at their core, but earning such a bad name would make sure they don't get any more disciples. Since you have no disciples, you don't deserve these resources. It all came down to interests, forcing these savage demons into shying from doing the unthinkable, killing their disciples. Venerable sensed their worry and chuckled. "I know your fears and can easily deal with them. We just have to do it together so that there will be no difference between who the disciples choose. Is everyone willing to bear this stigma?" Heart thumping, they all nodded. With everyone else killing disciples as well, we'll all earn a bad name. Desperate times call for desperate measures. With all of them seen as evil, the disciples would have no choice in the matter. Everyone had a sinister grin spreading on their faces. "Brats, your time has come." With all in agreement, it's decided. Go set an example for each of your disciples and shake the rest into compliance. Make some outer sect executives to round some of them up as well. If some elders or venerables do not have disciples to kill, just pick some from there. With everyone having the same reputation, an escape wouldn't exist. And any that fails to do it will earn the wrath of the entire inner sect. Venerable eyed each of them with a cold eye. Everyone nodded. Venerable turned around. "Venerable Chi, Venerable Bai, we may have had our differences, but we are up against a common enemy, sect leader. I hope you will join the fight for the greater good. If the inner sect collapses, so too will your interests." The two sighed and nodded. Venerable beamed. With all oldies of the inner sect of one mind, Xiaoyu's plan had no chance. More than half of the sect's power was held by elders and venerables. After setting up the details, they each went their merry way with a glint in their eyes, and out for their disciples' blood. Whoever ran for the labor office will die. Grand Elder was about to go as well when Venerable said, "Grand Elder, please wait." Grand Elder turned to Venerable smile. "I heard you've cast out your prized disciple into the labor office. Why?" "He violated the rules, and therefore he was sent there." Grand Elder said. Venerable shook his head. "Ha ha, Grand Elder, do you not trust me? With Gue, who being your pride and glory, no matter how vile the act was, you'd still not send him there. Moreover, after a couple of days of you sending him there, the elite labor office appeared. Venerable has made a thorough investigation." "Ah." Grand Elder chuckled. "Fine, I'll tell you. When Gue, who lost a Juafan, and that girl asked to return to the labor office, it raised my suspicions. So I sent Gue, who earlier is a spy. The sooner I know about what's going on, the easier it is to strike." Venerable was stunned and praised the Grand Elder. Grand Elder's vision is so wide and selfless. Even sending your prized pupil as a spy. "Ha ha ha, it's nothing. Others weren't suitable, and I could only send Gue who. It pains me even now to think about it." Grand Elder waved his hand. Then, "Venerable I'll be going. Please." Venerable smiled. "If you need anything, just ask." Grand Elder smiled and left. Venerable failed to catch the subtle shift in his expressions. A heavy mood, nor did the Grand Elder see Venerable suspicion. As both parties were in doubt, neither revealed their treachery to the other. Meanwhile, Venerable Chi and Venerable Bai returned to Venerable Bai's home to discuss. No matter the regrets of dirtying their hands with their pupil's blood, They had no choice in the matter. Everyone was going to bear this cross, and so should they if they wanted to live on in this sect. Yet just as they entered the house, Yu Ling and Kuei Lang came bowing. "Greetings, master. Is something the matter?" Venerable by asked Yu Ling reported. "Master, Steward Zhua has paid a visit." "Steward Zhua? Who's that?" "The steward of the elite labor office, Zhua Fan." Kuei Lang bowed. The venerables tensed. The mastermind behind all this mess, the boss of the elite labor office, just came knocking. Since he's the sect leader's right hand in this plot, he must represent the sect leader. Venerable by sighed. No gift is ever free. For him to represent sect leader, it means sect leader wants us on his side. But who should we choose, sect leader or the inner sect? Venerable Qi frowned in deep thought. Chapter 573, Negotiations. Chapter 573, Negotiations. Steward Zhua, forgive me for not showing you in. Entering the lounge, Venerable Bai saw a youth with white hair sitting there, the one and only labor that shook Guei Hu to the core in one blow, and bowed. Venerable Qi cupped his hands as well, but more for his status than Zhua Fan himself. Ugh. Zhua Fan waved them. Venerable Qi and Venerable Bai, I presume. You're too kind in your favor for little old me. I am but a laborer. How could I possibly have venerables show me such courtesy? Steward Zhua, no true ruler is without capable men. With Steward Zhua making the labor office a hot commodity, respect is more than deserved. Venerable Qi smiled. Zhua Fan nodded with a smile as he got down to it. Since venerables have already guessed that I work for the sect leader, then you must have also guessed the purpose of my visit. The two paused, and Venerable Bai sighed. We understand sect leader's design, but not his actions. We are venerables, giving our all for the sect and not tangling with unnecessary squabbles. I mean, we are part of the inner sect and cannot follow the sect leader's request. Venerable Qi sighed. Putting on a pained face, Zhua Fan figured as much since the start and smiled. The elder and venerable meeting had long since finished, yet everyone stayed behind, even as the sect leader left. Did you perhaps come up with a secret plan? The venerables shook their heads in unison. No comment. I can pretty much guess anyway. Uniting the entire inner sect in the face of this adversity. Zhua Fan snickered and eyed the wooden venerables. But did you ever wonder what you'd do afterwards? The venerable's brow shook. Zhua Fan knew he had them and drove in for the kill with a shout. Kuei Lang, Yu Ling, your masters have asked for you. The venerables eyed him suspiciously. Kuei Lang and Yu Ling came bowing. What can we do for you, master? Nothing much. They've been bored as of late and wanted to know about your life over the past decade in the labor office. Zhua Fan, cut in the four, were stumped about his point. But since the venerables stayed silent, the two acquiesced to Zhua Fan's request. How despised they were, how they grew accustomed to the mean looks, the fighting in the labor office, the many brushes with death, and the blood and sweat they shed to work their way to the top of the labor office. As the story came to a close, the two's eyes went red, reliving those moments of pain. Yet the venerables hadn't even flinched. Are you done? Venerable Bai asked. Steward Zhua, what is this? You don't feel it? Zhua Fan raised an eyebrow. The venerables shook their heads. Venerable Qi chuckled. Steward Zhua, you're too green. The path of demonic cultivators is wrought with pain and injustice. Labor office is just a phase in their long tempering. Did you think we'd be sad over our disciples' pain and loss? How is that a demonic cultivator? Was this what I had you feel? Zhua Fan shrugged. What I meant was, who was the catalyst to their bitterness? Who was it that laughed in their face? It matters not that they were ridiculed, but who did the ridiculing in the end? Shaking, the venerables caught on at last. Zhua Fan grinned. They were framed, but that's their own stupidity to blame. Yet the culprit did it with blatant disregard of their masters, you. And why did you work so hard to have the two back under you? Wasn't it because you had no one else under you to use after they were sacked? Oh, the horror. Disciples are of little value, yes, but you two just laid there getting bitch-slapped and didn't even twitch. I, for one, take my hat off. I sure as hell couldn't accept it. Touching my disciples is raising their hands at me. Venerable Qi said, just now that I am green? Ah, true, I'm still very much green. Many things I can't stand, even being called a bastard. Enough! Venerable by snapped in anger. Joie fan. I am showing respect to you out of kindness to the sect leader. Don't push it. Did I? Have I slapped Venerable's faces? Joie fan snickered. That guy bitch slapped you for decades, and yet you still want to be his errand boys. While I haven't been in the sect for long and cared for your dear disciples, yet you want to make me the enemy while keeping him as your ally. Who's the excessive one here, and who's despicable? The two glared as their fists tensed, and their beards shook. They soon had had enough. Joie fan, enough of your taunts. All the elders and venerables of the inner sect are in this together. We rise and fall as one. Go back and tell the sect leader, thank you, but no thank you. Now don't be too hasty. Aren't you all fighting to get the same thing, resources? But did you ever wonder that once all this blows over, if they'll get the pie while you get the scraps? When the inner sect is finished, we won't even have the scraps. Venerable Bai was finally honest. Joie fan smiled, having got what he wanted. I can give you what you want. Since the inner sect has no scraps, you are welcome to join the labor office to revel in a juicy pie. What? The two shouted their disbelief in unison. Joie fan said, to be totally honest, the labor office is overcrowded and needs elders or venerable supervision. If sirs find it appropriate, you are welcome to the labor office to take over. In plain words, sect leader wants elite labor office to become the new inner sect for raising elites. Even with how deep-rooted inner sect is, it'll only be a matter of time before it's empty. Venerable sure is in control of the inner sect. He gets the pie and you get the scraps. But by coming to the labor office now, you'll get the pie and he won't even get to touch the scraps. You do not have to stick with them. Come now and enjoy the most, or later and you get nothing. Their eyes twitching, the venerable's hearts shook. Sect leader wants a new inner sect, but the elite labor office is too fresh and who knows how long it'll last. The danger is high. Joie fan pierced their doubts with his sharp eye and revealed 2 vials. The two gasped at the thick miasma, even felt their blood flowing smoother. 10th grade pill? The heaven-reaching pill, to be exact. Just a little token. Joie fan smiled. If you still find it suspicious, you're welcome to get more people to join. For every elder or venerable coming to the labor office, I'll offer an 8th grade pill. 8th grade? Yes. Joie fan smiled. Since you'll be the mediators, you'll receive a bigger reward for your efforts. The rest will only get 8th grade. But you better work fast, the spots are limited. What would I do with more elders and venerables than disciples? The two came to understand Joie fan's true plan. He didn't just want to poach the inner sect's pillars, but its disciples as well, and turn it into an empty husk. Such deadly tactics would leave the inner sect crushed and ruined. That being said, if some oldies and disciples jumped boat in favor of the labor office, then the inner sect would have no worth by working in tandem. Sect leader and Joie fan will spell the end of the inner sect as we know it. Sitting here any longer would make us cannon fodder. Switching sides was a much more sensible choice since Joie fan and their disciples were close. The sooner they joined the labor office, the more benefits they'll receive. The two's eyes flashed and they nodded. We agree to join you and will even rope in others worthy of trust. Perfect. With the inner sect rotten, I have just the place for you to leave your mark. Welcome aboard. Joie fan's trademark evil smile was back in business. Chapter 574, Dragon Soul Rumor. Chapter 574, Dragon Soul Rumor. Master, you're back. In the demon scheming sect cemetery, Gui, Hu, Taiying, Kuwait Gang and Yuer were overlooking the 4 doors. While Elder Yuan took stock of the new labors and sent them here, the once desolate and eerie cemetery had become a popular spot for eager laborers. Yuer cried out, seeing Joie fan approaching. Kuwait Gang grumbled, Master, where have you been for the past 3 days? We've been working hard here, and you're goofing off? It's wandering off. You better remember that, brat. Joie fan smiled and bopped his head. Kuwait Gang pouted in annoyance. Isn't that the same thing? Just where could you wander off in the demon scheming sect? Gui, who hesitated before muttering, Steward Joie, You said you'll let me stay by your side. Could you take me with you the next time you go? Ha ha ha. I know what you mean, but this time was different. Zhuo Fan grinned. Besides getting the two venerables, he used the past few days to pay a visit to other known disciples Kuei Lang, and Yu Ling pointed out poaching had become a walk in the park for him, knowing each side's reasoning fully well. And besides all that, getting the disciples had a far greater impact than some oldies he didn't take Kuei, who since he was Grand Elder's disciple. While the guy came to him to train for the Double Dragon Gathering, he would rather play it safe when it came to pulling the carpet from under the other party. Kuei, who understood his reasoning and nodded. Elder Yuan spoke up. Steward, for the past few days, the line of inner and outer disciples has been thinning. Of no importance. It's up to them if they want to come or not. We can't force them. Zhuo Fan waved his hand and turned to Kuei, whose group. What are you four standing around for? Get back to your stations. And you, Kuei, who? Keep that heavy, savage energy hidden. You need to show restraint. That's why I've placed you here to supervise, to train your heart and learn restraint. They all nodded and returned to their posts. Only Elder Yuan remained and smiled at Zhuo Fan. He knew Zhuo Fan only said it for the four kids' sake. While he had a different intention, sure enough, Zhuo Fan began with a sigh. Young ones are too green in handling affairs. It's not that I don't trust them, but fear they will be rash and expose your plan. I know. Huh? Elder Yuan laughed. Zhuo Fan said, Elder Yuan, I've been running around the intersect these past few days and noticed that the old geezers are making a move to curb the disciples' new trend. They noticed our plan then. They have to get a grip on their disciples, and no amount of effort on our part will change that. The sect situation has always been up to the people's trend. Venerable Sure is too sharp to not notice it. Elder Yuan turned heavy. Zhuo Fan mocked. Be that as it may, too bad the inner sect isn't so tough after all. The oldies are too much at odds with each other, even as they band together to weather the storm. All I need is to instigate them, and a crack shall form, and with a few promises, they'll turn faster than flipping a book. Venerable Qi and Bai will do the splitting for me, while with Kuei Lang and Yu Ling's help I've got some strong inner disciples on board. The favor I gave them is showing its worth. I am amazed how Steward Zhuo's every step is calculated and controlled. Huh? Elder Yuan laughed. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. Please, I had to waste 2 10th grade pills for those venerables. And that's just the start. For the other oldies, I will have to give an 8th grade pill each. I'll be ruined at this rate. Are you running low? How much do you have left? Elder Yuan jerked once Zhuo Fan's pockets ran dry. The plan would be shot and flushed down the drain. Zhuo Fan squinted. Why do you care so much? You think I don't know that just after telling you that I can raise a sect, the next second Xia Wuyue came telling me to do so? Think I'm stupid? Telling you about my wealth will make you do everything to make me spend it all. That means you have plenty to spare. Ha ha ha. Great. Elder Yuan nodded and smiled like a weasel. Zhuo Fan's mouth twitched, though he didn't care that much. He could keep up with the expenses for a long, long time, but that didn't mean he wanted to. The faster he finished this plan, the faster he paid back Xia Wuyue's favor and would be free. He never once cared about the demon-scheming sect. It was all for the sake of being able to leave. If there was one place he'd rather spend his time at, it was that new little house. Elder Yuan noticed it as well and sighed. The kid has no connection to the sect, even with his 2 disciples here. Elder Yuan smiled. Steward Zhuo, you've gone to such lengths and spent so much for the sect, and having received nothing in return must have put you in a bad mood. Then let me tell you a secret rumor that might be of little help. What rumor? Is it Xia Wuyue's gossip? Next time I'll smack that greedy little bugger and take out my resentment on him, so that you never get another idea about my pockets, huh? Elder Yuan's face twitched, and he chuckled. Steward Zhuo, please don't joke. I'm being honest here. The rumor comes from the Western lands, and only the higher-ups of the sects are privy to it. I only got to hear about it by playing lackey to an alchemist. It is about the secret of the Dragon Vein Soul. Dragon Vein Soul? That caught Zhuo Fan's attention. You mean that 9 dragons diamond body? Elder Yuan smiled in disdain. That's just a waste of Dragon Soul's power. What do you mean? Zhuo Fan turned serious. Ethereal stage experts say, with the 9 dragon souls in one's body, anyone who can withstand their torture while under ethereal stage will achieve the 9 dragons diamond body and enter the ethereal stage on the spot. But this path is a waste, because his soul would become that of an earth dragon soul, no different than those other 9 dragon souls. So when meeting another ethereal stage expert, your body may be tough, but your soul will be weaker. The better way of using dragon souls is the 10 dragon soul convergence, conjoining heaven and earth, activating the heaven vein and drawing the 9 heaven dragons' powers into yourself to form the heaven dragon soul. It is beyond anything the earth dragon soul can achieve. This soul's natural aura can quell another soul and make battles far easier. Rumor has it that the earth dragon soul is a top soul, but lacks in both attack styles, and one could only skip 2 layers while the heaven dragon soul can skip 5. What? Joie Fan was astounded, having never heard of anything related to heaven dragon soul. Closing his eyes, Joie Fan recalled the 9 Serenity's secret records and its contents, but nothing about it was mentioned. Not even the 9 Serenity's emperor knew. Though there was one thing that drew his attention, pertaining to the true dragon soul. Sacred Domain's dragon race had the dragon tomb, where its generations were buried and the dragon power ran strong. By using it to refine the soul, the strongest dragon soul would take shape, but that place was the dragon race's restricted area. Under tight guard, going there as anything but an ethereal stage was a death wish. While after reaching the ethereal stage, one lost a crucial chance to form their soul, so no one would think of going there to refine a true dragon soul. But from Elder Yuan's words, this heaven dragon soul sounds like a soul formed by refinement of the dragon tomb's dragon power. I can't steal in the sacred domain, but I can in the mortal domain. Elder Yuan knew he was puzzled and continued. The 10 dragons open the heavens and provide one with the timing to enter the ethereal stage. Though lacking in the 9 dragons' diamond body's toughness, it matters not when soul is all that counts in the ethereal stage. In the Western lands we are in, only double dragon sex exalted double dragon managed to achieve the heaven dragon soul. Chapter 575, Explosive. Chapter 575, Explosive. Exalted double dragon. Joie Fan raised an eyebrow. It sounds like it's connected to the double dragon gathering. Elder Yuan nodded. Ha ha. The double dragon gathering is something double dragon manor set up. You'll know of its importance in due time. Exalted Double Dragon is the leader of Double Dragon sect. Be it the 9 dragons diamond body or 10 dragons opening the heavens, they all came from them. It is the source of the highest martial arts in Western lands. Calling them the top of Western lands isn't without reason. What about Danxing Shin then? Wasn't he the best in Western lands? Joie Fan asked. Elder Yuan shook his head. What if I told you Danxing Shun was Exalted Double Dragon's only disciple? Danxing Shun came from Double Dragon Manor. Those two were visionaries that never took disciples. Even to otherworldly talents, all they did was guide them. The only exception being Danxing Shun, the genius seen once every 10 millennia, to whom they both poured their heart and soul into teaching. He exceeded his masters and became the best in Western lands. But because of falling out which threw Western lands in chaos, Danxing Shin left without a word. That's why the best in Western lands is Exalted Double Dragon. Elder Yuan sighed. Exalted Double Dragon might not even want this title, having lost such an amazing disciple they might never meet again. Joie Fan eyed Elder Yuan and nodded. Few are those that can see the diamond in the rough, while a true eye for talent might not even find the most dazzling gem of them all. Having been a master himself, Joie Fan understood the desire to pass on one's legacy. Elder Yuan calmed his sorrow and said, Steward Joie, by seeing the Earth Dragon soul on you last time, I surmised you'd want to attain the 10 dragons, opening the heavens. The dangers are great, and even your soul might be at risk of annihilation from the dragon power. But with your talent, you can give it a try. It's lucky that you are in the profound heaven stage, and will take some time to reach ethereal stage. Just gather the 10 dragon souls. I got 9. Joie Fan scratched his head. Elder Yuan was flabbergasted. Why, you have 9 earth dragon souls, all tucked away in my body. Now all I have to do is get the 10th, and see if the 10 dragons opening the heavens is worth it. Zhua Fan rubbed his chin in thought, disregarding the incredulous look from Elder Yuan as he said, "You have 9 dragon souls inside you, yet you still have not refined them? Don't you fear being devoured? By who? Those cowardly reptiles." Zhua Fan snorted and revealed the azure flame. "Elder Yuan, I've told you before, this soul flame targets the soul. I just use it to turn those reptiles into meek little earthworms. You might as well say they're sealed." Zhua Fan grinned, and Elder Yuan was speechless. The great 9 dragon souls were actually chilling in his body. That's the same as caging 9 dragons. No matter how sturdy the cage, they'll still lash out like savage beasts and tear you from the inside. Yet Zhua Fan had them standing in the corner like weak lambs. Elder Yuan was still out of it. "What is this azure flame to quell the deadly earth dragon soul?" "I got them back in Tianyu from someone training in 9 Dragons Diamond Body. I was considering using the 9 Dragons Diamond Body to enter the ethereal stage, but abandoned the thought as it made my cultivation unstable. Now that I've heard of the 10 dragons opening the heavens, I can only rejoice at my right decision to wait it out." Zhua Fan smiled. Elder Yuan nodded and sighed. "Steward Zhua, your farsightedness is beyond anything I know. I would have long since entered the ethereal stage if I were you." "Why, thank you." Zhua Fan felt much freer now in his past life. He never thought of achieving the Heaven Dragon Soul, but now that he had the Dragon Souls, his luck truly was off the charts. In a fortnight, a shocking event took the demon-scheming sect by the storm. Venerable Qi and Venerable Bai, as well as hundreds of oldies, petitioned Xia Wuyue to be transferred to the labor office to supervise it. Their disciples were to follow, as well. Venerable Shi suffered a crushing blow, finding himself in an inner sect with 1/3 of his original forces. It followed with many known inner disciples requesting sect leader to leave their brutal disciple-killing masters for the labor office. They were in the thousands. The requests of the disciples and the old-timers was explosive news. Crushing the inner sect oldies agreement of working together, the peace had held for 2 weeks and then crumbled so fast Venerable Shi's faction had no way of retaliating. Xia Wuyue was over the moon. His ever sour and grumpy mood uplifted as he stamped the request with his seal of approval. The giddy look coming from him screamed, "I'm the mastermind." Since he never showed such a bright smile to anyone, it only attested to how right they were in taking this course. With the sect leader behind them, their ex-masters couldn't touch them. The inner sect's new trend was such a rage that it infected the outer sect as well, and the disciples marched into the labor offices, open arms regardless of the executives' meddling. It resulted with the executives being split into 2 camps, pro-migration, and against it. The sect was on the brink of war. What was once a united group for the common good and benefits, some of them just took off, leaving the rest hanging. Crack! An exquisite piece of china lay there in pieces, suffering the wrath of Venerable Shi, Venerable Qi, Venerable Bai. Damn them all. They threw us all away and went to that damn labor office in public. The inner sect's rise and fall depends on all of us. The 2 might hate us, but they aren't so stupid to not see the bigger picture. Why then? Grand Elder mused. Venerable Shi's face was a mask of rage, panting and confused how it had come to this. Second elder rushed in with panic. Those that have changed sides in public are all tied to those wretched venerables. While Kuei Lang, Yu Ling, and a few other known disciples organized in secret and waited for the right chance to explode into action. They played us. What's the use of stating the obvious now? I only want to know who put them up to this. It's been so long under wraps that it had to be premeditated, but sect leader's character is known to be watched within the sect. No one wants to play with the bull and get the horns. He always does things with an iron fist and forgoes subtleties. Who is responsible for setting them on this path? Find him out. Venerable Shi glared at the second elder, shuddering. The old man reported, "Venerable Shi, I have been listening, and sect leader isn't the one who got them to act. It was Zhua Fan, the one everyone calls Steward Zhua, the founder of the elite labor office. The same one who interfered with the inter-sect competition." Venerable Shi asked. Second elder bobbed his head. "Yes, him. They say he is incredible, a power unlike any profound heaven cultivator should have. We've caught a glimpse of it in that ring. But what is even more frightening is his calculative mind, his insidious plots, paling even sect leaders. While sect leader uses force, he employs a softer touch, the carrot and the stick. Besides the two venerables, regardless of who he meets, elder, venerable, or disciples, anyone who had even a modicum of discontent with us were incited to turn on us. Through rewards and threats, they all cave in the end to his mind games. How is it that you know so much about what they talked about? Venerable sure eyed him, second elder sighed. I went to visit an elder that switched to the labor office to find more information only to be cursed and berated, saying something about taking his female disciple a decade ago, and that I even flaunted it in his face, that we are now enemies. He also has a vile temper, and in his rant he revealed how the kid antagonized him against us with a few honeyed words. I then realized that the kid not only uncovered past grudges, but also gave them an 8th grade pill. I reckon that was what sealed the deal. An 8th grade pill. Why didn't he come to me as well? I come willingly. Second elder sighed in greed. Venerable sure snorted. Why would he come to you when he was after those unreconciled people? He'll and never trust you knowing you stuff your pockets by emptying mine. We are the true winners in the inner sect. It is our turf. Or would you rather be without a home and at another's mercy? Second elder chuckled yes. He'd go for the pill, but would soon be coming back recalling where he left his cash cow. Joie fan, a mere laborer of exceptional skill. I have no choice but to meet you myself. Venerable sure squinted. Chapter 576, Warning. Chapter 576, Warning. Make sure you know your limits before stepping into the heaven door. Even I had a high risk of dying. Kuei Lang stood there with an inquisitive look before the rumbling door, and just as he took a step, a voice entered his ears. He saw Guei, who's standing before the door with disdain. Kuei Lang hesitated. Senior brother Gay, who... Don't try to scare me, and just tell me how dangerous it is. Since my son cleared a 7th grade array, I can do it too. I'm not so stupid to fall for your threats. Guei, who rolled his eyes and ignored him. Your funeral. Kuei Lang was stuck between advancing and retreating. It was then that Kuei gang rushed over. Don't do it, Dad. You'll die. Even senior brother Guei, who had to pay a heavy price. Kuei Lang was scared away. You mean he was serious? Is this 7th grade array that deadly? Master has set it up specifically to test elites. It's unlike the one I trained in. Kuei gang nodded with a serious look, his brow soaked. Kuei Lang sighed and wiped it before going for the earth door and asking, Son, is this safe? This one's easier. Senior brother Tai Ing cleared it at the peak profound heaven stage. If I can't get a 7th grade demonic treasure, I guess 6th grade is better than nothing. Kuei Lang grinned excitedly. In his charge for the door, he heard a wail coming from it. Son, this one isn't easy either, I see. Yu Ling and her sister were just coming over and giggled at him. It was a scene most common of late before the 4 doors in the sect cemetery. With the oldies from the inner sect came so many disciples, the labor office was packed. The lines to challenge the trials were never ending. Everyone was excited to jump right in. Everyone wanted those demonic treasures and pills guaranteed to them once they cleared a door. Such a treatment surpassed even the inner sect. The oldies were giddy too. The easier the gains for their disciples, the more they got in the end as well. The greed was so thick in their heads that they'd be testing themselves too if they could, just to get those goodies. Venerable by nodded again and again with a smile. This is why every disciple rushed to steward Zhuo's elite labor office like crazed shoppers. I'd brave offending my own master too if I could get in here, but I'm not a disciple anymore. All that matters in the end is personal strength. No matter where you can raise it, even in the labor office, that is the best place to be. Venerable by his right. The other old guys bobbed their heads. Zhuo Fan smiled and pointed at the doors in succession. Elders, venerables, the elite labor office isn't the inner sect. It's not based on competition, but trials. Each one of you is free to guide your disciples, but the result may not necessarily be in their favor. In these trials, strength isn't the definitive answer for overcoming them. That's good. Now, there will be no need to play tricks for those little resources. It will be the best thing for the disciples' cultivation. Venerable Chi laughed, the rest agreed. They were losers in the inner sect, being robbed of their disciples through all kinds of weird accidents, while here, in this pure environment, they were free and laughing. Venerable Bai took a moment to ponder. Then his eyes lit up. The elite labor office uses trials, so the disciples do not resort to petty tricks. The 4 trials are fair, but as people are lazy by nature, few hardly consider themselves the opponent, driving to better themselves. That's why the inner sect adopted competition as a solution to raise tough disciples. While the labor office uses trials, yet still manages to instill excitement into them for cultivation with its large reward as a lure. But to put it in effect, a huge amount of resources are needed. Stewardjoie, I don't know where you got so many resources to implement this plan, but it can't go on forever. When the resources dry up, won't we return to the same situation as in the inner sect? The oldies turned to Joie Fan. Joie Fan hid a smile. Venerable Bai has a good head on his shoulders. Yes, the reward is only temporary, to squash the inner sect and steal their authority. Once the inner sect is done for, every high disciple will be in the labor office, and I could do whatever I want with it and not bleed money every day. The high rewards would have to stop and only be placed on the top disciples, leading to the same situation as the inner sect, and no skin off my back. His mission would be over and done with, and he would be home free. Why the hell would he waste away in this sect? He was not stupid, nor a glory hound. People, it is not for you to worry about, but the sect leader. That being said, even if it gets to that, you won't lose anything but win all the same. Aren't you the first to join us? Joie Fan snickered, their hearts chilled, and picked up on Joie Fan's meaning, obvious from that vague smile. So what if it does become the inner sect? They were pushed aside in the inner sect, with Venerable Sure taking everything for himself. But here they're the bosses, they would get the biggest slice, they'd become Venerable Sure. They laughed inside and bowed. Stewardjoie is wise beyond his years. Sect leader chose the perfect candidate for this job. Thank you, thank you. Joie Fan returned the gesture with hidden disdain. He had not once thought of himself as being part of the in-crowd of the sect, and had no qualms about where Demon Scheming Sect was heading. But these guys, the big shots of the sect, only cared about their own behind and pockets. One actually had the wisdom to see what would come to pass, yet shot him down in 2 shakes. Now, I see why Xiaoyue said the sect is rotten, and from the way I see it, the rot runs deep. If this ever happened in the Luo clan, he'd be dealing death left and right. The only reason I'd ever get you in the Luo clan is for my sake, not yours. Whoosh! A white figure entered their eyes. Venerable Bai cried. Grand Elder, why are you here? Master! Goe, who looked from a distance, Grand Elder only spared him a glance, and turned to Joie Fan. Stewardjoie, I presume. Nice to meet you. I am the Grand Elder of the Demon Scheming Sect, wishing to discuss something with you. May we go to a more private place? Stewardjoie, this old-timer must be up to something. Don't go. Venerable Bai sent him a secret message. Joie Fan shrugged. I'm the sect leader's man. Since they've approached me in the open, they won't do anything to me. It's fine. Joie Fan took 2 steps closer to Grand Elder with a smile. I am but a laborer, and flattered that Grand Elder would bother himself to invite me in person. We may go. Grand Elder's brow shook while the other oldies gave a nod of admiration. Elite labor office and the inner sect were at war. Grand Elder ought to have come to deal with him. Yet he still agreed without fear. Such valor, such manner, all inspired respect. The young are bold. Sect leader entrusted his plan to you for the right reasons. Grand Elder nodded and flew away. Joie Fan followed the 2, soon arrived at a creek, where a man was waiting. Venerable Sure, why could you have asked me to? Give a rest. Joie Fan cupped his hands, and Venerable Sure cut him off. You're just Xiaoyue's pawn, an expendable cannon fodder. Why do you insist on getting on every Venerable and Elder's bad side? It will only work against you for your future stay in the sect. Joie Fan deflected. Am I supposed to offend sect leader instead? My end will come even faster. Humph, the ignorance of youth. You think Xiaoyue can help you? Wrong. He's only letting you take the fall. Venerable Shur said, by establishing an elite labor office, you've made an enemy out of every elder and venerable. While Xiao Yue would use you to take all our power, he'll still need us to manage the sect. How do you think he'll appease our anger? He'll throw you to the wolves, a truly tragic fate. Zhuo Fan pondered and let a snicker slip. Am I not still alive? Think again. Venerable Shur squinted and exploded with power, enveloping Zhuo Fan in endless thirst for blood. Chapter 577, 3 Fiends of Hell. Chapter 577, 3 Fiends of Hell. SSS. Zhuo Fan faltered back 3 steps with a frown and a pained look. Venerable Shur's soul pressure felt like the whole world was on his shoulders, and he almost activated Azure Flame's self-defense, but Zhuo Fan chose to bear it. Staring defiantly, Venerable Shur's eyes shook with surprise and wonder from his tough character. You're not afraid? That's my line. Zhuo Fan broke out in a grin. I'm not just any laborer you can touch. Make your move. See what sect leader has to say about it. Who'd he pick, I wonder? The pawn you keep droning about, or some oldies? You didn't think this through, did you? Venerable Shur, took back his show of force and nodded. So that's why Xiao Yue entrusted everything to you. You don't lack a spine. In any case, remember my words. Sooner or later you will leave his protection. Thanks for the tip. I'll be sure to treasure it. Zhuo Fan cupped his hands. If that is all, Venerable Shur, I'll be going now. Venerable Shur's eyelids twitched, but he waved him off. In the end, Zhuo Fan smiled and flew away Grand Elder's side. He sure is something. Just a profound heaven stage in cultivation, and yet could hold his own under your soul pressure. His own soul must be tough, tougher than a peak radiant stage. He is a talent of exceptional quality, and that's not the worst of it. He actually managed to make me feel fear, even if for an instant, from his ineffable calm. Venerable Shur squinted. His gall is impressive, but unlike others who bluster with misplaced confidence or are rash, his calm comes from complete control of the situation. This tells me that he isn't just a pawn, but the true mastermind. Grand Elder nodded. Indeed, he got us where it hurts the most, and knew we won't touch him at such a critical time. That is why he came behind enemy lines so carefree. He is of the leading stock, and may even be the next sect leader. Venerable Shur's silence was answer enough. Another Xiao Yue, no, even more dangerous in fact. Venerable Shur, sighed. Grand Elder looked around. What is our next move? Force won't help us here. With all of us elders and venerables in the inner sect having the same interests, nobody can use force, especially now with so many disciples turning on us. By my reckoning, there will only be more people going to the labor office in the days to come. Our grip on them has slipped. Venerable Shur's eyes flashed. However, since we can't touch him, I'm sure we can find someone who can. Since they used disciples to destroy us, we'll pay them back with the same coin. Ha ha ha. Venerable Shur cackled as Grand Elder fell silent. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan returned to the cemetery, and Venerable Bai came to him the next second. Steward Zhuo, is everything all right? I was about to take the rest and make them answer for detaining you. Aha, it's fine. They aren't fools. Fighting is the worst option for them. I was confident in this estimate. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow the next second, looking at the 4 doors because there were no disciples around them, but only oldies, so why would it catch his attention if they were watching over them? Venerable Bai chuckled. Oh, almost forgot. Steward Zhuo, someone wants to meet you. Me? Zhuo Fan eyed Venerable Bai. Who? Come. Venerable Bai had a vague smile as the two walked past the crowd. 3 people surrounded the doors while commenting and nodding like critics. One was a portly man in yellow, wobbling his lard ass in excitement. The second was a lanky man with a face in a perpetual frown, while the last one was an impeccable gentleman. Though his attire spoke of his grace, his face was a thorough disappointment due to his plain features. The trio were escorted by the oldies as if the sect leader was coming for inspection, hanging on their every word and sucking up to them. Venerable Bai chuckled. Venerables, Steward Zhuo has come. Whoosh! The wobbling but froze, and the jiggling belly twisted around to let the guy see Zhuo Fan. Fan, we meet at last. The incoming bear hug grew bigger and bigger as he laughed. Ha ha, genius. Join our elite area? Wait, hold up. Who are you, sirs? As the fatty was barreling for him, Fan waved all over the place. Venerable Bai smiled. Steward Jua, their elite instructor venerables, Fiend Yang, Fiend Yin, and Fiend Gui. They go by the name Three Fiends of Hell. Along with sect leader back in the day, they went by Four Fiends of Hell, geniuses who survived the Double Dragon Gathering. A real man does not boast, Venerable Bai. Don't do that, ha! The fatty waved at him to stop with a smug face. Reminiscing about the good old days, Fan chuckled inside. What's so great about coming back alive? Is that something to take pride in? Or is Double Dragon Gathering such a hellish place that even keeping your life is commendable? The fatty caught Fan's doubtful expression, and his smile froze the other two's side, knowing full well that it was hardly something to be smug about. Though it didn't make coming out alive from that deadly place any easier, Fan cupped his hands. Venerable sirs, to what do I owe this honored visit? Fiend Yang was the one to reply. Fan, you've done a great job with the Elite Labor Office. Sect leader is so proud that he had us come here to tell you that besides the set of demonic treasures you owe him, you are to make 3 more for each of us. Fan was crying. Venerable sirs, aren't you getting it all wrong? After commending and lauding me, you should be rewarding me and not asking for more things from me. The trio laughed. The fatty waved his hand. Ha ha, you can't even take a joke. Sect leader has decided that these disciples can become the pillars of the sects in terms of quality and quantity. Hence, he will allocate half of the inner sect's resources for training these budding experts. In addition, you'll have elite spots as well, but it will depend on their strength to take as many as they can. Say what? The oldies were over the moon. They figured this might happen, for the Elite Labor Office to become the new inner sect, but that was going to be much later, yet fortune smiled upon them, with the sect leader coming to this decision overnight. And by the sound of it, they get all the elite spots as well. It only spelled the end of the inner sect. They all quaked in excitement and shock-happy that they made the right choice in jumping ship. They could practically see the future of the Elite Labor Office under sect leader's grasp, but with plenty of resources going their way, since they were the first wave of oldies to join. As for Venerable Shur's faction and stubborn disciples, it would only get worse from here. All of them sported creepy grins. Enjoying another's misfortune, Fan nodded. That's great. The Elite Labor Office is on the right track, and I'm one step closer to finishing my mission. When will the elite selection take place, sirs? In 2 days, so get ready. And you'll be joining it as well, kid. No discussion. We have our sights on you, and you can't escape. Fiend Yang laughed. Fan said, but I'm just a laborer. What's wrong with that? Look around you. They're all laborers. With so many promising inner and outer disciples coming here, not letting laborers enter the elite area is tantamount to suicide. I bet the sect leader will call a meeting of elders in a couple of days to talk it over. With so many venerables, and even more to come, this decision is as good as made. Fiend Yang pointed at the old guys, and they nodded on cue. Their pockets were going to get lined up based on Elite Labor Office's development. They had to crush the old rule, no matter what. Fiend Yang turned serious. Boy, you've done a great job getting to change the sect's rule. This has hardly ever happened in the sect's thousands of years of history. Everyone looked at Fan with respect, and praised. Fan chuckled, inclined to disagree on this assessment. He was only playing his act, granted on a grand scale, at the whims of the one on top who gave him the script. The leader wasn't him by far. He'd never take this role upon in the past, but now he couldn't care less. Like an outsider, he could leave just like he came in. The situation had no pull on him. This realization made his heart thump, his eyes shining. I'm advancing again. Chapter 578, Seclusion. Chapter 578, Seclusion. Then Fan went through a long and equally pointless discussion with the 3 venerables before finally leaving. Yet not before giving repeated warnings about their share of demonic treasures. Fan kept silent. Wasn't it just a joke? I was never going to give Xie Wuyu anything, not to mention you. Zhuo Fan smirked, having had enough of their senseless banter, and left as well. Not before warning Venerable Bai, I have crucial matters to attend to. I'll leave you to handle the elite selection. Steward Zhuo, we are now elders of the labor office. We will do our very best. Venerable Bai smiled. At long last, Zhuo Fan felt the weight on his shoulders slip off. With perfectly capable managers around, he needn't worry about this place. Freedom. Zhuo Fan flew away in his newfound bliss. Back to the shabby labor office place where he stayed. Elder Yuan was still looking after the laborers' cultivation. Those that had yet to enter the elite labor office, these youths had never taken the old man seriously so far. He was so old, yet much weaker than everyone else. Why should he look after us? But since he had Zhuo Fan on his side, everyone showed respect. Elder Yuan watched the laborers with the same attentiveness as his grandsons. There's still 2 years until the next Azura Circle. Work hard, and you can enter the elite labor office, freeing yourself from such an agonizing fate. The disciples nodded. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and nodded as well. Elder Yuan's wisdom was boundless, earning his admiration as well. The old man ought to be getting cocky now that he had a big shot on his side, yet reality showed otherwise. All that power did not get to his head. He was only becoming kinder and more nurturing. Zhuo Fan swore he had never seen someone's heart reach such a deep level in the countless experts he had fought, not once. All that held Elder Yuan back was his poor foundation and interference for living up to his glorious potential. Anywho, the heart is what all came down to, for experiencing the world and all its nuances. If the old man had been a powerful genius, getting his heart to reach such a deep level would be a truly difficult task. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Or having them both would uplift one to heaven. Zhuo Fan came to see Yun Xuanji's words through a different lens. The ex-demonic emperor had a stale life, filled with fighting and killing and comprehending the demonic way. It was for this reason that becoming even a saint was out of his reach. Upon finding the 9 Serenity's secret records, he thought his chance had come. But now it dawned on him that this rebirth was his true chance. Heaven offered him a second chance at walking the demonic path in a more profound and intricate way that his past self could never tread. Steward Zhuo, how come you're here? Elder Yuan broke him out of his rumination, having come over with the same flattering smile he had when they first met. Zhuo Fan saw endless wisdom in that smile. The weak had their own path of survival. It was something that he despised, but now saw the truth behind it holding his heart. Zhuo Fan smiled. Elder Yuan, I am on the verge of a breakthrough. Could you tell me of a quiet place with no interferences? Weren't you advancing like it was nothing so far? Why are you so serious this time? Elder Yuan asked. Zhuo Fan shook his head. I can feel that this time will make me sore. I must get ready, lest I come to regret it for as long as I live. Then we can't have you disturbed. That is a warning coming from your heart. Elder Yuan turned serious, and then gave Zhuo Fan an odd look. Why are you so calm then? Even I'm worried sick for you. Ha ha ha. No matter how crucial it is, be it success or failure, I can only do my best. Worry will only drag me down. Just doing my best to glean into heaven and follow my heart. Elder Yuan approved. His heart has reached the blasé level. With such a heart, no demon will corrupt him. This is good, but the warning from the heart will pose some trouble. He should be fine. Elder Yuan's eyes flashed, and he smiled. Steward Zhuo, you've come to the right person. Having been in the demon scheming sect for so long, I know many secluded areas. Some not even the sect leader or elders are aware of. Come with me. Elder Yuan walked into a glum forest with Zhuo Fan behind him. An hour later, the two found themselves before a black cave. Steward Zhuo, this is the most remote and isolated place. No one will ever bother you here. But it's hardly far. Zhuo Fan entered the cave to find a stone bed, wooden rack, and a table, as well as a night pearl in neat order. Someone was living here, obviously. Did someone else cultivate here? Elder Yuan shrugged. Yeah, but he has long since sacrificed himself for the sect. It is the same alchemist I worked under. He likes peace and quiet. So he made a cave here to cultivate away from the ruckus of the sect. Best thing is that no one knows about this place. Why is everything so clean then? Someone lives here. Zhua Fan frowned. Elder Yuan dismissed his worries. How can that be? I've only kept it clean for the memory of our times working together. You can break through in peace here. But, come on now, don't you trust me? It can't get any safer than this. You stay here while I activate the defensive array, and no one will disturb you. Elder Yuan stopped any more questions from Zhua Fan and ran like the wind, leaving him looking around anxiously. What if the owner comes back? I must get to the bottom of this before I can stay here. As he walked to the exit, the entire cave shifted with a hum as it was enveloped in hues of green. Zhua Fan's heart jumped and knew he was in a barrier, but as an array grandmaster, he noticed this was a soul barrier, one set up by an ethereal stage expert. Are ethereal stage experts trying to hold me back? Elder Yuan giggled. Steward Zhua, make yourself comfortable and focus on breaking through. No one will bother you. Or do you still doubt me? Zhua Fan's eyelid twitched, and he shook his head. The soul barrier. He could have popped it open if it was just a simple array with his eye, but since an ethereal stage expert used his soul to supplement it, he was stuck unless he became stronger, which was not possible. Left with no choice, he chose to gamble and have faith in Elder Yuan. What man proposes, God disposes. Elder Yuan, I sure hope you are worthy of my trust. Zhua Fan shrugged and went back inside. Elder Yuan chuckled with a shake of his head. Then his eyes took a somber look. What are you all doing here? Make sure the kid's not disturbed, not even by the sect leader. Yes, sir, an old voice replied, and the barrier rippled once and vanished. Meanwhile, 3 fiends of hell and Xiaoyue were discussing in the great hall when to give elite labor office those elite spots when they felt the sudden power spike. They rushed outside the hall. 5 green beams pierced the skies from within the forest before vanishing. And with them, so too did a patch of trees. Fiend Yang cried, I isn't to that. Impermanence 5's vicissitudes barrier. Fiend Yin frowned. Fiend Gue closed his fan. That means, High Venerable. Xiaoyue's eyes flashed with doubt. In seclusion, Venerable sure showed a twisted smile from a mountain in the inner sect. Chapter 579. 10 Dragons Opening the Heavens. Chapter 579. 10 Dragons Opening the Heavens. Who? In the quiet cave, and under the light of a blue flame, Zhua Fan sat on the bed at peace, and tranquil. He should be worried as to which ethereal stage expert trapped him here. Though in this particular instant he didn't, letting it all go in favor of training his heart. It would have been a major concern years ago, but now his heart had achieved calm, even in serious matters, since they were looking after his best interests. Everything else was moot. He might as well go with it and handle his break through. This realization only deepened his calm and turned the azure flame into a bigger blaze. Unlike his previous advancements, his heart was warning him for days, which only made it all the more critical to be cautious. Zhua Fan reckoned that the constant refining of his soul had something to do with it, as well as his heart improving here and there. All he needed was a spark to trigger this event, and that was where Venerable Shure's soul pressure came in. This advancement had been triggered by his soul, and that meant Radiant Stage was nigh skipping 2 layers without any supplements from the 8th layer of Profound Heaven Stage. Showed he had one exquisite soul. Kunpeng was right about one thing. Azure Flame is the best in refining the soul. Zhua Fan broke out into a grin. No matter how suspicious he was of Kunpeng, the guy had always given him good stuff crack. The sound coming from his mind announced the expansion of the flame on his forehead. A mighty soul power churned his mind. Like a stormy sea. Zhua Fan was both happy and startled. It was just like he thought, the sign of entering the Radiant Stage. He has had a Radiant Stage soul for ages now, and advancing to it would fill it with unseen power. He had no idea just how far it could go, and what it would become. His joy was short-lived, though, as the surging soul power rose and rose, threatening to burst his skull. The pain of having his head balloon was excruciating. One more push, and it would pop, but he bore through it, pushing back against the growing soul power to get it under control. No matter how useless, it was the ever-growing pressure got so big that it leaked outside and pulverized his bed and furniture. It spread in the entire cave. With no place left to go, Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth, working hard to settle this. He'd never have used the Azure Flame if he knew that reaching Radiant Stage would make his soul power multiply to such a degree. What do you get by multiplying a peak Radiant Stage soul? Death. As he kicked himself with regret, he recalled, right? Ethereal Stage comes after Radiant Stage. With so much soul power, it's got to condense. Zhuo Fan worked his cultivation method into controlling the rumbling soul power while also giving it shaped soul forming in the Radiant Stage. It was unheard of. Then again, so was having peak Radiant Stage soul power in profound Heaven Stage the soul's form was but the next step in a soul strengthening. So why should he stick to the conventional stages when he had the right soul power? Besides, not doing it would leave him splattered across the walls. Zhuo Fan squinted and pushed his soul power with all his being. As to the form, the cultivation method would decide roar. It was now that the dragons lashed out. There's still those 9 earth dragon souls. I wanted the 10th to give the 10 dragons opening the heavens a try and see what's the deal with Heaven Dragon Soul. But it's too late now. Since I'm stuck with an earth dragon soul, might as well do it right. He blended those dragon souls with his mighty soul power. The resulting clash released an almighty aura. 9 dragons' roars filled the cave, threatening to break it open. And as the dragon souls put pressure on the soul power, it soon took the shape of an earth dragon soul as the pressure ebbed on Zhuo Fan. He felt his power growing, nearing an ethereal stage expert's level, but then, as the 9 earth dragons fused, a mighty draconic cry came from his thunder ring. It made the 9 dragons separate then, and their Zhuo Fan eyed his ring in shock. Since when did my ring have a dragon soul? The dragon soul came out as it roared, along with Dugu Zhantian's signature weapon, dragon-slaying crescent blade roar. The azure blade flickered with the image of a dragon roaming over it, unable to break out, only roaring while the 9 dragon souls were incited by it, and roared as well. The 10th dragon soul is actually here. Talk about being a lucky stiff. Heaven's on my side. Marshal Dugu, you have my utmost gratitude for helping me even beyond the grave. Zhuo Fan was excited, knowing the 10 dragons opening the heavens was around the corner. Whoosh. Lifting the blade, Zhuo Fan laughed. Dragon souls converge. 10 dragons opening the heavens. Dragon power of the heavens. Form the heavenly dragon. Bow to me and turn into the heaven dragon soul. Roar. The earth-shaking roar pierced the clouds, and the dragon-slaying crescent blade exploded in a golden glow as its dragon burst out. Soaring along its 9 brothers, the 10 dragon souls circled overhead, their heads and tails fusing into forming a ring. With a hum, the ring shone with a blinding white light. With a bang, the white light pierced the cave and shot for the heavens. The white beam of light connected the 9th heaven with the earth as draconic roars once again sounded. A prismatic glow rose, blending with the light beam, and entering Zhuo Fan's soul. Zhuo Fan felt refreshed and powerful before he could celebrate, though. An even mightier pressure came in the form of a draconic roar like never before from the heavens above. Zhuo Fan spat blood then and there, his mind fried, while the mighty power converted into huge dragons charging into Zhuo Fan's soul and causing havoc. The excruciating pain made it feel like his mind might crack, his jaw shattering for grinding. But he steeled himself through it, forcing down on his soul in an attempt to quell the dragons from the heavens. No matter how futile it was to control even one dragon's heavenly power, Zhuo Fan had decided to stake it all. Somewhere else, a huge eye opened in the darkness, surrounded by flames and purple lightning. Humph! A human dares to draw on my dragon tomb's dragon power? It would rather devour you than let you form the dragon soul. Master, there are oddities among humans as well. Exalted Double Dragon did form the Heaven Dragon Soul after all. A young voice echoed, the huge unmocked. Those in this world that can actually take my dragon power can be counted on one hand. Humans never know their limits. You say Exalted Double Dragon formed a Heaven Dragon Soul, but do you know how many countless others have tried and failed? The youth was speechless. The large eye continued. Forming one of my dragon souls is a human's gamble with his life on the line. If it weren't for me being trapped here, you wouldn't even have that. Yes, master, but since it's so dangerous, do I have to go through it as well? Spare me with your excuses. Since you've caught my eye, of course you'll succeed. Or do you compare yourself to those village idiots? Only with my help will you ever succeed. Master, I'd never go against your will. I don't want the master to burn me alive. The youth panicked and steeled his determination. The huge, I said, you'd better have at least that much bravery, or even if you flee to the sacred domain, I'll even risk being found out to tear you piece by piece. Now, are the 10 earthworms ready? Master, they're earth dragon souls. They're nothing but earthworms to me. All right, as you say, along with the youth's wry smile, draconic roars echoed. Chapter 580, Heaven Dragon Soul. Chapter 580, Heaven Dragon Soul. Rumble. A flashy beam of light pierced the cave and shot into the sky, and there was nothing Impermanence 5's barrier could do to stop it. Then came a huge pressure from the heavens, and the draconic roars assaulted this barrier, making even these seasoned experts bleed from the mouth with the shaking of the ground and the sect around them. They found it impossible to maintain the barrier under such might. What the hell is this kid doing in there to make such a scene? In the sect leader's hall, Xiaoyue shook and walked out, frowning at the beam of light. The High Venerable must have reached a crucial step indeed to enter seclusion. Venerable Sure, in his little courtyard, flew onto his roof and ruminated on the changes. Ha! No matter what fancy method High Venerable is using, the least of all it'll keep him busy and out of my hair. Ha! The whole sect was roused awake by the sudden commotion, the beam of light grabbing their attention. Everyone looked on with shock and doubt. What is happening? Whoosh! Elder Yuan appeared next to Impermanence 5, watching them go through signs with stern looks. Even as blood flowed from their mouths, they still wanted to maintain the barrier. Just what on earth happened to damage you so much? Who knows what that kid is cooking in there? It made the whole word tear and shake. Even we can't take it anymore. Elder, she was sweating. We can't keep holding the vicissitudes barrier for too long. There's no way this is the kid's power. Just what crazy stunt is being pulled in there? Elder Yuan's brow shook, turning from the weary elders to the beam of light and the draconic roars, adding the dragon power into the mix. His reaction grew more flabbergasted by the second. Why, you mean to tell me he's forming the Heaven Dragon Soul? Is this the 10 dragons opening the heavens? That's impossible. Impermanence 5 cried together, with Elder she speaking for all when saying, he went in as a profound heaven cultivator. The most this advancement will take him is the radiant stage. Ethereal stage is too far away to condense his soul. Elder Yuan's eyelids twitched, shaking in confusion, but his eyes gleamed. I don't know, but it's following the legend of the 10 dragons opening the heavens. The next step should be the prismatic glow and the descent of the dragon soul. Others might come here and greed and interfere. Impermanence 5, we must stabilize the barrier and hide it. Elder Yuan's power exploded, and a yellow glow came out from his body, along with a draconic roar. A golden dragon flew out of him. It circled the vicissitudes barrier. As its tail whipped around the entire barrier, the great power of Earth seeped into the barrier, while Impermanence 5 made signs before relaxing at last. Earth Dragon Soul. Crouching Dragon Seal. Elder Yuan shouted whoosh. The beam of light vanished, and the earth calmed down. The audience ended up scratching their heads. What? It's over. Break it up. That is a restricted area. Venerables and elders came to restore order by the order of sect leader. There was no need for him to say anything. It was clear as day to these oldies that messing with High Venerable's cultivation was a death sentence. Xiaoyue returned inside. High Venerable's cultivation has succeeded, and now comes a period of acclimatization. Venerable Sure smiled. It's over. At best, it should buy me 3 days in which the old man's recouping. Better make the most of it. While most figured this was the end, it was only the beginning for the storm brewing within the barrier. The beam of light shined brightly, only covered up under the combined work of 6 people, following the constant heavenly draconic roar. It went just as Elder Yuan said. with prismatic lights following the beam, and into Zhuofan's cave images of dragons with fangs and claws roamed the beam as they tried going inside. This scene shocked them silly. The kids actually forming a heaven dragon soul. Aha, genius I tell you. He's the second one in Western lands to form his soul so early. Our demon scheming sect finally has such a genius. Ha ha. Heaven is with our sect. Elder Yuan laughed, touched to the core, while the elders nodded. Being his guards was totally worth it. Elder Shi chuckled. Elder Yuan nodded. So this is the reason behind the heart warning to condense the soul. Then again, with his soul power going beyond common sense, all that was left was forming it. As a genius, he can't walk the common path. But the kid sure is paranoid, saying he has only 9 dragon souls when he had 10. Ha ha. I was playing the lackey for nothing. Elder Yuan didn't show any remorse his words might contain, though how was Zhuofan supposed to know that dragon-slaying Crescent Blade had a dragon soul within it? He was innocent in this, not that it mattered, as everyone wished for Zhuofan to finish up forming his soul and become the core of the sect revolution. 10 dragons opening the heavens is only the beginning. The crux is forming the heaven dragon soul. The dragon power from the 9th heaven is not something anyone can withstand. Elder Shi was worried. Elder Yuan shook his head. Relax, the kid'll be fine. His cultivation and heart are at peak. He will succeed. Ha ha ha. The 9th heaven dragon power wreaked havoc in Zhuofan's mind. He had been bearing through it all this time with clenched teeth and a still heart, pushing back with all he had to control it into condensing. While the prismatic glow slipped inside and gave Zhuofan's soul a dazzling hue of colors, Zhuofan rejoiced that his heart had evolved so much to allow him to cope with the dragon power and its tyranny up to this point, or he'd been crushed just by that increase of soul power alone. So while his head was a ticking time bomb, excruciating more and more by the second, a serene heart held him on the brink. He could let the pain in and out at will. A true blasé, feeling with deep breaths, Zhuofan suffered the savage dragon power for the next 3 long days. The pain never let up, but his eyes showed unmistakable clarity under the onslaught these days. The dragon power lost its savagery bit by bit, forced into Zhuofan's soul. On the brink of fusing, Elder Yuan and Impermanence 5 were guarding outside the cave. It had all gone easy so far, but with High Venerable away, Venerable sure had a ball in the sect. He rang the bell for a meeting with the other venerables and elders to crush the elite labor office. Xia Weiyue mocked him, while relaxing in his throne, totally content. And why wouldn't he be, when dozens more oldies had defected for the labor office? Their numbers equaled inner sects now. That being said, he had half of the inner sect under his control and could hold his own against Venerable Shi's faction. Venerable Shi, what is it this time? Speak. What grave matter has happened? Xiao said plainly. Venerable Shi said, Sect leader, I propose the dissolution of the elite labor office. Why? It's against regulations. A laborer must do what he's entitled to. With the inner and outer disciples going there is totally inappropriate. Venerable Shi said. Xia Weiyue chuckled, letting Venerable Bai speak. A demonic sect holds strength supreme. For all the disciples to run to the labor office, it only goes to show how weak the inner sect is. Shouldn't it be the inner sect getting dissolved instead? Aha, true. Xia Weiyue laughed. The great hall used to have sect leader and the rest, both sides eyeing each other like wolves, reduced to hating him in the fight to fill their pockets alone and weak. All he could do was put up a tough front before these old-timers, while now he had split their interests and got some on his side. This was the feeling of having a grand plan come to a head. Chapter 581, Red Herring. Chapter 581, Red Herring. Venerable Shi was unfazed by their union. Sect leader, inner sect, is the core of the sect. It has always been this way. Weakening it will weaken the sect. By siding with the labor office, sect leader neglects his duty and threatens our foundation by paying an impossible price. Xia admired Venerable Shi for his sound logic. No matter how run down the inner sect became, it was the root of the sect. Giving it all up in favor of a new one would be paying a heavy price, a price the sect couldn't afford, but it wasn't like the sect was paying for anything, was there? Joie Fan waltzed into the sect like a tycoon and left Xie Weiyue free of worry. He wouldn't twitch, even if he had to build 8 new intersections. He wasn't the one paying. Ha ha ha. Venerable, sure you're too anxious. The rise of the elite labor office is unstoppable, reaching the intersects level in such a short time. Letting it all go would be such a waste. And besides, this is the merit of the labor office. I always give laborers a way out. No matter how hard it may be, those that walk it are the cornerstones of our sect. Xie Weiyue squinted. Since we're all here, I propose we make an exception to the rule and turn Labor Joie Fan into an elite on account of his outstanding contributions. What do you say? Venerable Bai nodded. Joie Fan is smart and talented. Becoming an elite for his merits is only just. I also propose that the labor office with its strong disciples is entitled to vie for the elite spots. It would be such a waste of talent to leave them there. Yeah, please allow it. Sect leader. Venerable Bai's faction agreed on the spot. All the people who couldn't get anything back in the inner sect, Venerable sure knew about their desires very well. Ridiculous, as venerables and elders you dare defy the ancestral rule? Sect leader. The elite area has had clear rules since the dawn of our sect. Only the best can enter it, while the labor office is filled with hopeless rejects and criminals. Wasn't the High Venerable, even with his immense glory in coming out of the labor office, banned from being an elite as well? The ancestors had made this rule to prevent nepotism and the ruin of the sect, while Joie Fan and the rest, be it potential or strength, are among the best in the sect. Everyone can see it, and there's also the sect's rule. If anyone gains the approval of the majority of elders and venerables, he can become an elite. Who is against it? Venerable Chi and Bai spoke up. We agree and go with the sect leader's decree. We agree as well. Labor office's side of oldies bowed. Venerable sure held his nose, knowing this was bound to happen. The opinions are halved and can't reach a decision. Laborers do not care for rules, and will sow discord once in the elite area. This decision is not to be made rashly. Yeah, Venerable sure is right. Intersex faction bobbed their heads, but a loud voice cut him off. Enough of your goddamn blabbering. This here's a demonic sect. Have you seen any saints around? Or anyone going by the books? Going by your idea, those elites would be holed up in their homes. Those are not elites, but wastrels are more like it, or getting in through connections. A fatty in yellow barked, followed by a beanpole and a scholar. 3 fiends of hell, Xie Weiyue frowned. This is an intersect meeting. Why are you here? We heard the motion to dissolve the elite labor office and came to see who the hell is butting in and is against such a great place. It's been ages since the elite area produced anyone decent. And now that we have a good source of seeds, you want to call it off? Who the hell dares? Fiend Yang pointed at the intersex oldies. Venerable Sure's mouth perked up in a twisted smile. He signaled the second elder, and he snickered inside. Tu Xiao was puzzled. Who told you that? It's all the rage in the elite area. We be deaf to not hear it. Fiend Yang fumed. Xie Weiyue was curious. The elite area is talking about it, but they only just mentioned it. Noticing Venerable Sure's cold look, Xiao was late to stop him from speaking. Fiend Yang, I proposed it. Representing the High Venerable in managing the intersect, I must uphold the sect's rules and honor. You might be thirsty for talents, but no laborer shall ever become an elite. If word got out that we did this, then we'll be the laughingstock of the world. They'd say no one's good in our sect. You call this dishonorable? I'll give you real dishonor. Fiend Yang shouted, going to give someone a beating only to be pummeled instead. Dozens went to the last Double Dragon gathering, yet only 4 came back. That's dishonor when... Fiend Yang began recounting the past. Fiend Gue and Fiend Yin were crestfallen every time they heard it. That time was simply horrible. Venerable sure showed a smug look, sending a message to the second elder. I just knew he'd go on and on about pointless history. This should give us 2 hours. Aha, brilliant, Venerable sure. With the High Venerable in seclusion and everyone here, there's no one watching the labor office, and those two brats can have a blast. Second elder snickered. Venerable Shu's eyes flashed, while Xiaoyue was getting more and more suspicious. What's the old-timer up to? His proposal is useless, so why does he still insist on it? Meanwhile, at the cemetery's most popular attraction, a man and a girl appeared. They looked on with disdain and released a dreadful aura. Is this the elite labor office that has got the whole sect abuzz? It hasn't been here for long, yet it's close to ruining the inner sect. They sure seem rich to be able to do it. A 17-year-old girl mocked them. The handsome guy next to her had an evil smile. Right you are, junior sister Yujuan. They are rich but dare to fight the inner sect. It's time to teach them some manners and ingrain in their hearts the right place for laborers. Once here, you can never get out. No one here is worthy of becoming an elite, ever. Right. Yujuan stuck out her chest. Where's their manager? Elites Yujuan and Qifeng are here to test you wretched laborers and see if you're worthy of something besides sweeping. The trial takers waiting in line for the doors turn around. No matter how rude and foul the couple was, they were elites of the sect. Steward didn't lie. He has paved a way for us to reach heaven, out of despair and into a world of glory and promise. The crowd rushed the two with excitement, which only made the couple thicken their disdain. Gui Hu and the rest walked over. Senior brother Qifeng, it's been a while. I heard the elite area will be coming to pick disciple from us, but didn't know it would be you two and not the three venerables. But the elders and venerables of the labor office are away, and I will have to accommodate you. Please tell me about your choices. Gui Hu, weren't you Grand Elder's prize pupil? What are you doing here? Such a shame. Qifeng was stunned. Gui Hu waved his hand. Just some minor mistake, and Master threw me here, though calling it a fortunate mistake might be better. Labor office isn't what it used to be. It's filled with opportunities, with now even elites being picked from it. I should make the cut as well, huh? The couple only had mockery for him. Labor office with opportunities? Don't make me laugh. We'll make sure there won't be any labor office after today. The two's eyes glinted. Chapter 582, Feud. Chapter 582, Feud. As I live and breathe, Pang Yujuan. Tai Ying roared with rage at her sight. Yujuan scoffed. Senior brother Tai Ying, even you ran to the labor office? Well, you're made for this place. Of all the places in this world, this filthy place is the only one to accept someone like you. Pang Yujuan, we all know exactly what happened. Just a fourth layer of radiant stage, yet got into the elite area. It only proves that you were up to something, just like last time. Tai Ying snorted. Yujuan mocked without a care. My grandpa is the 7th elder. No one will ever mess with me. No inner or outer disciple. Only an ignorant nobody like you. A mere top outer disciple would be dumb enough to mess with me. Yet look where that has gotten you. So you do admit it, you skank. Tai Ying, they're elites, the best of the sect. Try to leave that for later. Gui Hu cut his swearing short. Senior brother Qifeng, how would you like to test us? Qifeng grinned. Simple, we'll test your strength personally. Anyone who becomes an elite has to have some power. I'll go first. A tough guy came over excited, but all he got was around his size at his cultivation. What are you doing here with just a 5th layer of profound heaven cultivation? It couldn't get you even to the outer sect. Gui Hu shook his head. Ma Sanpao, are you messing around again? Your nose steward Jua, smiley face, the namelet, means dull horsey. Crack. The noise jarred the ears of the others, and the next thing they knew was something red flying over. Ma Sanpao was flung into the ground, dead, even as his excitement remained in his eyes. Gui Hu squinted and turned to the source of that yuan qi. Qifeng had a nasty grin while lowering his palm. What? Didn't you used to do the same? Gui Hu. Qifeng taunted. Gui Hu stood silent, forgetting about him and focusing on his heart. At the sudden rage coming over him, and he clenched his fist, Gui Lang shouted, Senior brother Qifeng, how can you be so heavy-handed when you're just here to test us? Humph! What could a rejected laborer possibly amount to? Qifeng patronized. Anyone else up for a test? The disciples flinched back twice, looking at the pair in fear. Are they really here to choose candidates? The two showed boundless ridicule, but no one stepped up, not with how one move killed someone already, not even Kuei Lang's group. These two were definitely here to pick a fight. Yujuan's twisted smile grew as her shifty eyes roamed the crowd before stopping at Tai Ying. Senior brother Tai Ying, you were such a mighty hero once, the best in the outer sect. So how come you're down here? In the labor office? Are you suddenly a chicken too? Where's all that courage gone? Say that again. Tai Ying roared and raised his fists. Bastards, being elites doesn't make you the strongest. I'll fight you even in the profound heaven stage. Tai Ying, stop with the trash talk, will you? A profound heaven cultivator going against a radiant stage 1? Who are you, Steward Jua? Don't waste your breath. Guei Hu shouted over him, while Kuei Lang kept giving him signals not to fall for their taunt. Bro, they're riling you up. Don't let them get to you. Tai Ying grumbled and remained silent. Yujuan's mockery never ceased to come. Ha ha ha. Senior brother Tai Ying must be so scared of me. Tell you what, since you lost 3 years, I won't use any soul attacks. If you can't even take me on like this, then you're a hopeless coward. Shove it, bitch. No matter if it's 2 stages or 5 layers difference, I'll still take you. Tai Ying roared and clenched his fists. Pang Yujuan, let's do this. Guei Hu side-sided Yujuan, and Chi Feng grinned. The dumbass fell for it at last. Under the tense gazes of others, Tai Ying exploded with power as he clawed at Yujuan's throat. She merely giggled and pushed him back with her full cultivation, no matter how much nerve he had. Tai Ying knew 5 layers couldn't just be overcome so easily. The instant their attacks met, he slipped past her palm and grabbed her wrist crack. Yujuan wailed with pain at having it broken. Guei, whose side approved with bobbed heads. That's the top outer disciple for you, well seasoned. The only difference between profound heaven stage and radiant stage was soul power. With that out, Tai Ying might stand a chance after all. Obvious by his current advantage, they didn't get to rejoice though, as Yujuan's eyes raged with bloodthirst. A sudden wave sent Tai Ying flying, his head a mush and blood leaking from everywhere. That skank cheated. She used a soul attack. Kuei Lang flew over to help, but then someone jabbed his chest. Spurting blood, Kuei Lang slammed back down as Chi Feng snickered from above. You're actually dumb enough to believe a radiant stage expert wouldn't use soul attacks? Taking such a retarded bet will never make you elites. Ugh, Kuei Lang raved. Is this how you choose candidates? By crippling them? Choose candidates? From a bunch of rejected laborers dreaming the impossible? We came here to warn you to stop wasting your breath and know your place. Chi Feng's twisted smirk was ever-present. Yujuan got next to Tai Ying in 2 jumps. Her eyes shone with bloodlust, noticing his damaged soul, and struck his chest. Blood spurted from his mouth because of the heavy pressure. This palm might very well be the last he'd see on this earth. Yuling, though, had a say in this, meeting Yujuan's attack. While the two separated, she took Tai Ying away. Yujuan was annoyed at having her prey slip away, but someone blocked her. I'll do it. Chi Feng flashed before Yuling and Tai Ying with a creepy smile and pointed, profound ranked martial art, flaming finger. Die. Yuling panicked. She had no way of blocking an 8th layer of radiant stage cultivator's attack. Profound ranked martial art. Underworld fiend. Guei Hu popped out of nowhere, meeting Chi Feng's attack. Guei Hu fell back 10 steps and spat blood, while Chi Feng stood still and taunted, Guei Hu, I wasn't your match back then, but I've been elite for a longer time, and my power control surpasses yours. Yours is just scattered. Ha ha. Crack. The shockwave sent Yuling and Tai Ying into the ground, spitting blood. Guei Hu glared at him. What do you mean scattered? Ha ha. You'll never understand with that heart. Chi Feng mocked. Your savage energy used to scare me, but only in the elite area did I realize the truth. You just don't know how to use it, simply showing it off. Why else do you think I'm having an easy time beating you when you're a layer higher than me? Guei Hu gnashed his teeth. The heart again. On account of the Grand Elder, I'll leave you be. But get this straight, it is you who challenged us when we came to merely test you. This isn't on us, but you. If anyone twists it, Chi Feng exploded with bloodthirst, making the other disciples shiver. Chi Feng flicked and a few heads rolled onto the ground. Everyone nodded in panic. Chi Feng and Yujuan cackled, while Gui, who sighed, could only stew in anger. And another thing, as laborers, you are the filth of the sect, not worthy of being elites. Try it, and you'll be squashed like a bug. Chi Feng threatened. Everyone lowered their heads, unable to retort, while sect leader wanted laborers to become elites. The elites came over to rob them of their courage. They knew they weren't welcome in the elite area, only surrounded by dangers. Laborers were the lowest rung, and nothing would change that. The inner and outer disciples who came here were gripped by remorse. They got the demonic treasures and pills, but lost a glorious future. A laborer was but an ant to an elite. Even if it was an outer disciple in the past, the two took in their despair and grinned savagely before leaving. Yet Gui, whose side was filled with rage, the elite area and the labor office were at war. Chapter 583. Let him handle it. Chapter 583. Let him handle it. And that's how we four went through hell and untold hardships before escaping with our lives. The grand hall echoed with Fiend Yang's pained voice, his eyes flickering with fear. And to prevent such disaster from ever happening again, as elders and venerables of demon-scheming sect, it is our duty and responsibility to raise a true figure to carry out the sect's burdens, to avoid needless casualties, and to grow geniuses. Fiend Yang's speech had passion, had feelings, touching Xia Wuyue and Fiend Yin to the core, while the rest were just bored and nodding off. Not just Venerable Shi's faction, but even Venerable Bai's group was stiff with their eyelids twitching. Who could blame them? No matter how great a story, at least keep it short, not drone on for hours. The only reason Xiaoyu accepted it is because he was there in the last Double Dragon gathering. But we old guys have nothing to do with it. Of course we'd grow tired of your prattle. Looking outside, for God's sake, it's evening already. Just how long will this tub of lard drag it on? Till morning? Venerable Shi had his limits as well and turned to the second elder. That ought to do it. Time to go. Yep, let's run for it. Venerable Shi is brilliant. Second elder said, excited. The two must have finished their job by now, and I don't want to hear one more word out of this guy if I can help it. You're not the only one, Venerable Shi shouted. Fiend Yang, please hold on for a moment. I understand everything. Since this proposal has such great opposition, we will put a pin in it. Seeing as it's so late already, let us resume on another day. Venerable Shi is right. We might argue for days here. It'd be best to do our own search before we convene again. Someone already had his back, and not just his faction, but Venerable Bai's side too. All of them were praising him to high heaven. Ugh, Fiend Yang's chubby face twitched and sank. Why is it always like this? I never even get to make half my point. Ha ha ha. We understand Fiend Yang's feelings, and he needn't explain it. Hearing Fiend Yang's retelling felt like reading for 10 years. Venerable Shi laughed with a straight face. Sect leader, forgive my crassness today, and if there's nothing else, let us end the meeting here and discuss the labor office's fate another day. Xiaoyu eyed him, unable to see through his thinking. That we shall. But don't go ringing the bell as you wish. Calling a meeting is the right of the sect leader. Yes, I will forever remember it. Venerable Shi knew Xiaoyu was just throwing his weight around, and simply nodded. He and his gang left in a hurry, leaving Xiaoyu unnerved for some reason alone with his allies. Venerable Bai mocked. Seeing Venerable Shi so slumped feels so good. It's all thanks to Fiend Yang's dawdle until the old fart couldn't take it. Fiend Yin chuckled and patted Fiend Yang's shoulder. Fiend Yang's face twitched. When did I dawdle? I'm a smooth operator, mind you. He was clearly in the wrong, and our mighty righteousness shook some sense into him. And I have many, many more lessons to share. I can share them with you if... Oh, no. It's best if you tell the old fart. Our ears are clogged enough for today. We could never endure any more of your ceaseless drivel. Fiend Gui stopped Fiend Yang before he got into it again. The others agreed at once, doing anything they could to stop the fatty's mouth from opening. The fatty was crestfallen. Can't anyone feel my undying righteous devotion? Xie Wuyue's frown never left him. Strange, what was Venerable Sure up to today? He was not his usual scheming self. Maybe he just came to flaunt his might to try and stop us. But look at him, losing it all, huh? Fiend Yang mocked. The others nodded without a care. Venerable Bai said, the old fart must still think of himself as the boss of the inner sect. Look at him now, ha! While the others jeered at another's expense like winners, someone entered the hall and bowed. Laborer Yuling requests to see sect leader and master. What is up with this girl? Venerable Bai turned to Xie Wuyue. Xie Wuyue asked, enter. Yuling rushed deeper and bowed. Sect leader, master, elites caused a scene at the labor office, killing and hurting many. They warned us to not set foot in the elite area or we'll suffer for it. What? They all cried out. The elites and labor office had never once intersected, yet they suddenly went there? Fiend Yang stomped. Who's the punk with such gall to kill laborers? Has he no care for the rules? Venerable sirs, it's Chi Feng and Yu Zhuan. Yu Ling reported. All had a realization written on their faces. Yu Zhuan was the 7th elder's granddaughter, while Chi Feng was 2nd elder's. They were on Venerable Shi's side and doing his bidding. Xie Wuyue's side. A great diversion. Using the time High Venerable was in seclusion and we were in the meeting, he had the labor office and elites become bitter enemies. Choosing candidates from the labor office will be much harder now. The inner sect has the advantage. They could choose all they want. Last I heard, it's us 3 leading the elites area. Fiend Yang stuck out his folds. Fiend Gue shook his head. We can't interfere. And now, there's the problem if laborers even want to become elites. Everyone has their pride, and after such humiliation, they'd be hard-pressed to still want to become elites. That will leave many crawling out of the woodworks to take those spots. We might not have even one laborer willing. They played us. Blast it all to hell. The punks ruined my great plan. I'm going to set them real straight. Fiend Yang flared his nostrils. Walking away to dole out punishment, Xie Wuyue called out, no point. They'd be sure to have a good reason for doing it. Right? What's their excuse for messing with labor office? Sect leader, they represented the elite area in testing disciples' level. Using the disciples challenging them as an excuse, they slaughtered many. Yu Ling reported. Xie Wuyue nodded. With no third party around, no matter what we say, they'll just twist it in their favor. And with Venerable Shi at their backs, it will only do us harm instead. Our only flaw is that they came to test the disciples as representatives of the elite area. Did you 3 tell them anything of the sort? Xie turned to the fiends to find them shaking their heads, all except the yellow fatty, choosing to look anywhere else but at him. I knew it was weird, and now they had a good excuse. Xie Wuyue shook his head. Fiend Yang and Fiend Gue raised an eyebrow, and sect leader asked, what did you tell them? Nothing. Just Yu Zhuan was whining about how she wanted to represent us in testing the elite candidates and fulfill her duty as senior sister. I thought she was only playing around and agreed. Dumbass. Everyone sighed. Fiend Een turned solemn. With the labor office and elite area entangled, we can't touch the 2. How do we go about solving this mess? Where's Shui Fan? Why wasn't he around? Xie Wuyue asked. Venerable Bai bowed. He was in a rush to handle some matters and hasn't been seen in days. Then let him handle it when he gets back. He's better at twisting the rules than Venerable Shi ever could. Xie Wuyue snickered and left the others puzzled. No matter how big of a genius Shui Fan was, he was but a disciple. He could do what we can't. They weren't just any elites, but the elites of some old-timers. Chapter 584, Emergence. Chapter 584, Emergence. The silent cave was a mess. Shui Fan was still sitting on the hard stone floor, his face no longer contorted with pain. After a bitter fight to the death against the 9th Heaven Dragon power, ended in Shui Fan's favor, taming all its savagery in this prolonged battle. Shui Fan's soul was compressing now, bit by bit, with the dragon power roaming at its center in the form of a dragon. On the cusp of fusion, the fusion progressed as a hazy fog covered his soul, and the compression continued home. Then, The hazy fog broke with the dazzling light coming from within and unleashing a strong force, making Juofan's soul bathe in the light after his soul got covered by the 5 colored lights. Juofan's mind was still as grave as earlier Juofan himself was sitting there like a statue roar. But then draconic roars came from within his mind, from within the colored light, followed by 4 claws and a 1,000-meter-long dragon, the prismatic light stuck to its body, forming its scales. Its mighty visage instilled power and dignity. Juofan opened his now draconic eyes and unleashed a howl of the sky. The mighty dragon power pulverized anything it touched, shaking even Impermanence 5's barrier, and with it, the elders themselves. Elder, she spoke for everyone when he relayed his shock. The power of the heaven dragon soul is so amazing even as it has just formed. The only reason Vicissitude's barrier still stands is because Sir Lin's the earth dragon soul. The kid is a true gem. True. It's my first time seeing the heaven dragon soul as well, and I must say, it truly is one mighty force. Elder Yuan nodded. Juofan calmed down after that. Feeling out the changes in him, his eyes wandered about the wrecked cave as the dazzling dragon soul turned them into draconic eyes, only when to show that the fusion was a smashing success and Juofan had remained himself. The dragon's soul fused with his soul and took its form, so even if his body would be crushed, plastered, or pulverized, his soul would just fly away to steal another body. The soul ability of ethereal stage. Speaking of soul power, he had left radiant stage way behind him. It was like giving his soul an armor. But a radiant stage against an ethereal stage was like a 3-year-old against a 7-feet tower of muscle, though, in Juofan's case. It'd be like a tower of muscle inside a 3-year-old destined to give one some nasty surprises. Death included, first layer of radiant stage and first layer of ethereal soul. I'm an abomination in the truest sense. Juofan chuckled. Not even he fathomed that this advancement would bring about such bizarre changes then again. Since he wasn't exactly an orthodox cultivator, it was a given hum. The space rippled and a red glow came out from his dantian. The bloody glow shone everywhere and rotted anything it touched, faltering. Juofan entered meditation at once, only to find his blood infant was in the radiant stage. Blood infant was a spirit of this world, and in the radiant stage, it had a dreadful soul power, exponentially better than your average expert. It could even turn into a blood blade, rending an ethereal stage expert soul into nothing. Blood infant became more and more horrifying as it grew in cultivation. It was this sole reason that made Saint Patriarch Blood Demon such an awesome figure in the sacred domain. This surprise filled him with confidence in fighting an ethereal stage expert with Dragon Soul by his side and the blood infant sneaking in a few hits. Who could touch him? Elder Yuan made a sign, and the earth dragon soul returned to him. He held his beard while chuckling. Now that the heaven dragon soul has taken form, all is settled. Release the barrier. Yes, sir. The 5 bowed, but the flash of red beat them to it, slamming into the barrier and staggering the mug. Shaking, Elder she groaned and earned Elder Yuan's odd gaze. What's wrong? The punk made a soul attack and took us by surprise. Elder she's face was twisted in horror. Elder Yuan shook his head. It's fine. He was just testing out Heaven Dragon Soul's power. That's not it. Elder she continued. The first wave was indeed the Heaven Dragon Soul's might, but the second one was filled with malice and darkness. It's like 2 opposite souls. Say what? Elder Yuan frowned, deep in thought. Does that mean the kid is hiding more secrets? Boom! A huge noise came from the cave and shook the Impermanence 5 into stepping back 5 times. Each of these elders showed their surprise in an odd way. Elder Yuan asked, "What is it this time?" Elder she needed a long time to gather his wits. The kid broke our barrier. Elder Yuan was flabbergasted. How? These 5 were 4th layer ethereal stage experts that combined could handle a 6th layer expert. How did it come to having their barrier popped like a balloon? Heaven Dragon Soul was strong and all, but not that outrageous. Just what kind of secrets are you still hiding, kid? Elder Yuan sighed, unaware that Juofan was stumped as he was by the effect. The place where he was had long since stopped being a cave. 100 meters around him, there was not a single thing. Everything had turned to dust the instant it got in range. Divine Eye of the Void's fourth stage, absolute domain, space crusher. Zhuofan's right. I had 4 golden halos flashing. He not only got a heaven dragon soul, his blood infant was upgraded, now having an unheard of soul power, and even his divine eye of the void got an upgrade. It was a universal move, perfect for when one was in danger, annihilating everything within 100 meters with intense vibrations. He'd kill, without leaving anything behind, no matter what armies were sent for him. Nothing could touch him. Heavenly Emperor's power lived up to the legend. Zhuofan grinned, and his confidence soared in having one more ace to deal with experts. With his safety guaranteed, he'd have no fear left. It even tore through the barrier just now, in this 100-meter area. He was the king, god even. All Emperor-level arts are mystical and godlike. Ha ha ha. Cackling inside, Zhuofan strutted out. When he had arrived, it was a perfectly neat cave, and now it was an odd hole, as everything within was turned to dust. Chapter 585, Fury. Chapter 585, Fury. Steward Zhua, you're finally out, ha ha ha. Congratulations on your smooth advancement. Elder Yuan popped out of nowhere and cupped his hand. Zhuofan merely nodded. All thanks to you for giving me such a great place. It would have been a pain anywhere else. Elder Yuan smiled. Steward Zhua, don't you want to know what happened these days? Like the barrier? With your wisdom, you should already have some guesses. Yeah, I have. What about it? Don't you care? No, should I? Zhuofan spoke. Elder Yuan was dumbstruck, then shook his head. Here, I thought the first thing you'd do was to have me over a barrel over this. I even had an excuse ready. Sigh. Now all that work has gone to waste. Ha ha ha, I thought as much. What's the point of asking if I don't get the truth? Zhuofan laughed. Elder Yuan, to be honest, my greatest gain in the demon scheming sect was meeting you. Expounding with Sir on the nature of the world has opened my eyes more than my entire life, especially about human nature's 4 realms. Which 4? Elder Yuan was interested. Zhuofan smiled. The first, ignorance. It is walking about aimlessly. Second, aware of oneself, but not of one's place, defined by misplaced overconfidence and conceit. Third, knowing oneself and their place, allowing one to pierce anything but their hearts are filled with pain. Fourth, knowing the wise, opening one's eyes and clearing the fog within. Elder Yuan nodded. Zhuofan continued. Elder Yuan, I've been stuck at the 3rd realm with a sharp eyesight, yet a heavy heart. I bore the whole world on my shoulders, fearing any misstep and holding myself back. But now that I'm in the 4th realm, who you are and where I am has lost its meaning. All that matters is your kind intentions. I don't even feel like knowing who those experts were that set the barrier, or I'd be required to pay them an immense favor. Not knowing means not paying back. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Quite an idealist you are. Elder Yuan shook his head. Zhuofan, your mind is sharp and devious. You might look at things with a casual glance, but all of these are just tricks, of no use to the world as a whole. While peering into human condition, walking the path to the truth, that is the greatest wisdom of all. Steward Zhua, you have finally ventured down this path, getting closer to the Tao. Your future is limitless. That's a sir will keep on helping me. Of course, you're the hope of demon scheming sect. I will always have your back. Elder Yuan's eyes shone. The old and the young fellows grew closer in these rare moments, even as each of them had tons of secrets. At least they were frank with each other. An hour passed, and the two returned to the elite labor office at the cemetery, but the scene left Zhuofan dazed. Why are there just a handful of testers at the doors? It's been just a few days, and the trend has already changed? He'd be hard-pressed to topple the inner sect. Now Zhuofan turned to see Elder Yuan mimic his surprise while Zhuofan was in seclusion. The old guy had looked after him, and no one knew of the elite's trip down to the labor office. Koei gang, and you were rushed over in joy. Master, you're back. What the hell happened? It's only been a few days, so why is this place deserted? Zhua Fan frowned the two side and explained how the elites wiped the floor with them. Kuei Gang gnashed his teeth. I and Yuer weren't here either, or he'd never touch my father. I will. You will what? You'll only throw your life away. Don't think for a second that a set of 9th grade demonic treasures can fight an 8th layer radiant stage expert. Who is stronger or weaker comes down to one's own power in the end. Zhua Fan sighed, teaching his disciple to shed his overconfidence. Despite his own eyes flashing with killing intent, Yuer lamented, Master, the laborer's dignity has taken a heavy blow, with some outer and inner disciples even slumping into remorse for coming here. Naturally, after being trampled like that, they'd never get the nerve to meet them until they can settle the grudge. Zhua Fan squinted and pondered. Listen up and listen well. Invite the 3 elite area's venerables for an apology banquet. Yuer asked curiously, apology for what? Didn't our disciple challenge them with a heavy hand? Of course we have to make amends. To show my sincerity, I will even present them the demonic treasures they asked for everyone to see. Both sides will be at peace. Oh, and the labor office's venerables and elders must come as well, or the elite spots for the labor office will be fewer. They came here to pick a fight, and now we're inviting them for a drink. Kuei Gang was fuming. We are no longer the labor office they once knew. All inner disciples look at us with admiration. Why should we play the victim? Zhua Fan snorted and pointed at the ignorant kid, while telling Elder Yuan, see that? The second realm of human nature, knows himself but nothing else, arrogant beyond reason. Elder Yuan nodded with a chuckle. Kuei Gang was baffled. What are you standing around for? Get on with it. Am I the manager here, or you? Zhua Fan eyed him, coldly grumbling inside. He obeyed his master's order, cupping his hands and huffing away with an equally unwilling. Your Elder Yuan chuckled. Steward Zhua, while I did say you just stepped on the road to Tao, you're still up to your old tricks. The banquet is destined to run red. Humph. All that wisdom only works for myself, while petty tricks are left for these swines. I kept my head down so far, so that no ethereal stage expert came knocking. But now I don't give a rat's ass. Anyone that pushes me will find himself 6 feet under. Zhua Fan's eyes flashed, and he boiled with a bloodthirst so thick the few disciples around the door shivered and were knocked out cold. Elder Yuan nodded. This was where Guei Hu and Zhua Fan differed. The former's power was scattered, his mighty savage energy not used to its full potential, and left many openings, while the latter never gave off a whiff of bloodlust. Like an average Joe, a pushover. But push him hard enough, and all that fire inside would explode like an unstoppable flood. I finally see you angry. That means you still care about something. Ha ha ha, go wild, knock yourself out. I'm behind you all the way. Elder Yuan smiled. Meanwhile, 3 fiends of hell and the sect leader were discussing how to handle the 2 problem disciples. With 2nd Elder and 7th Elder behind them and Venerable Sure on their side, they had no good excuse to use, but without putting these bastards in their place, how could the elite selection from the labor office could go on? While they were racking their brains, Kuei Gang stepped in with Zhua Fan's invitation. The 4 were dumbstruck for a second there. What apology? What is he up to? We've been on his side all this time, and yet he is wimping out, going for some apology banquet? Fiend Yang asked. Fiend Een ventured. Is he trying to appease both sides? It still doesn't mean you have to be so meek. He'll turn into a joke for the inner sect. Slapping the table, Fiend Yang said, I thought he was a genius, only to find him garbage. What good is strength when you can't use it? Xiaoyu squinted and smiled. I know his style. He must be up to something. He'll hold an apology banquet for your sake. Just let him have it and play along. And he wants to do is give demonic treasures. Oh, and don't forget about my share. Take along the 2nd Elder and 7th Elder as well. Since it's an apology banquet, we can't have the party's grandpas missing now, do we? Ha ha ha. The 3 fiends were stumped at his laughter, with Fiend Yang saying, What's with you? Do you really want to ease the tension? How are we supposed to handle those brats after this? Handle what when amends are made? Ha ha. Now leave this matter be. I'm just curious how the kid is going to end it. Hope I won't have to step in. Xiao Wuyue's eyes flashed. Chapter 586, Apology Banquet. Chapter 586, Apology Banquet. A secluded valley was shocked awake from its peaceful mood as an endless line of people went in carrying large trays filled with exotic dishes made of exquisite beasts like a work of art. Well, sure. Cultivators were above the secular world, overcoming the human condition and its limitations, but they still had manners. Like joining friends and kin alike for a joyous or saddening occasion, they'd find joy within the joy and fight sadness with closeness, yet the people coming and going with trays wore depressed looks and plain clothes. Thinking the feast would blow up, Gui Hu, Kue Lang, Tai Ying, and Yu Ling sat glum at the first table. With such a scary look, even the waiters avoided them, lest their oppressive aura stiffened them or scared them to the core crack. Kue Lang punched the table. For God's sakes, has Stewardjua lost it? They're the ones in the wrong, yet we're making amends? This is outrageous. No matter how much compromise I've made in my life, I'd never stoop so low. Yu Ling huffed. Tying shook his head. Why are you here then? Get off your ass and scram. And how exactly can we do that when it's Stewardjua's feast? We have to show our respect for all he's done for us. Kue Lang grumbled under his breath, then swore. I'm damn curious, though. Why are you here? You're both big-shot outer and inner disciples. I can't believe you're taking it so well with your styles. Those two have those elders behind them, and we can't even touch them, and now we're even saying sorry. Are you that eager to shame yourself? Tying squinted and restrained his anger. I'm here for Stewardjua as well. Chi Feng's last strike left my core on the verge of being crushed, and I would have become a waste. It's with Stewardjua's help that I made a recovery and even entered the Radiant stage. This is the least I can do. The heaven-reaching pill. Kue Lang gasped. Such a mystical pill. It saved my son and Yu Ling's sister like nothing. Stewardjua is divine to save the forsaken. I don't think there's any elder or venerable in the sect capable of what he has done. Yet today, Kue Lang shook his head in sadness, following with, Senior Brother Gay, who? Why are you here then? Zhua Fan said I can follow him anywhere, so listening to him is basic. Guehu spoke unconcerned. The others smiled. They'd gotten to know each other after so many days hanging around, each having their own reasons for sticking with Zhua Fan. Kue Lang and Yu Ling did it to return the favor, and in no small part, because they felt he had the better offer for a brighter future. Tying was here to get his revenge from 3 years ago by helping Zhua Fan crush the inner sect. Getting the meat out of the oldie's mouth was the best way to do it, and sure enough, the inner sect was forced into action, sending their grandchildren to make a mess of things. From this rotten and dishonorable move, it was clear that their meat wasn't the only thing stolen, but their whole plate. Too. Tying might be outraged by this feast, but was quite happy overall. The magnate Zhua Fan had achieved the impossible, making the inner sect that had withstood for thousands of years wobble, while the simplest of the four, Gui Hu, was part of the winning crowd through his master, Grand Elder, but chose to stick with Zhua Fan for one simple reason. To sharpen himself, his master warned him that only by following a resolute person could he improve his own heart. Which, funnily enough, the sect lacked very much. Dad, keep it together, those guys are coming in. Besides the elders and venerables, there are also outer and inner disciples. You all need to get a hold of yourself and not fall for their taunts. Kue Gang and Yuer came over with a sullen look, and a warning. Kue Lang squinted and snapped. This is too damn much. Those old coots must have called them to make us look bad. That's the least of our problems. They're surely up to something vile, to shame us and force our hand. They're looking for any excuse to get rid of us, like how they sent those two elites for us. Yu Ling warned with a glint in her eyes. Gang is right. We must keep calm. Kue Lang snorted in anger and sat back down while the other two nodded. Venerable Bai watched the four of them with a sigh as he said to Venerable Chi, "What's the point of all this?" Zhua Fan pulled the carpet from under the inner sect with a well-placed trick, attracting the disciples with heaps of resources. But now, the other side has used disciples to crush the labor office's dignity, and holding a feast now will only make it worse for them. Sect leader said Fan is a mastermind, so why would he make this dumb move? I'd have clobbered him by now, if not for sect leader's order. Seeing the obvious smugness on the oldies filling in at their expense and the glum labor office's oldies, Venerable Chi couldn't tell if he had made the right choice or not. The crew goes down with the ship. The punk no longer wants to mess with the inner sect, and now he even wants to apologize. Everyone's heart burned with rage, but they had no place to vent Venerable Chi's side. They're all forced to come by his sect leader's orders. No one here is interested in shaming themselves for that brat. Venerable by side. Meanwhile, in Venerable Shi's cozy home, Second Elder and Seventh Elder wore fancy new threads matching their cocky grin. Venerable Shi, shall we go target her? Second Elder laughed. Venerable Shi smiled. You two are the stars of today's show. I could never take your spotlight. Venerable Shi is too kind. With you being the leader of inner sect, how can it not include you? It's fine. How can I attend it if sect leader isn't there either? Won't I be called out as picking on the weak? Venerable Shi grinned. Seventh Elder pondered and laughed. Getting Venerable Shi to help us in this show will be giving them too much honor. Come, the two of us are more than enough. Venerable Shi nodded, agreeing with Seventh Elder's idea. They're not good enough to make me appear, Second Elder exclaimed. Right, we can't let them get smug by any means. But to think they'd come up with an apology banquet. I still thought we were in a deadlock with the labor office. Seventh Elder said. Venerable Shi chuckled. It's out of my predictions as well, but it makes sense. Fan is a wise and sharp kid, and is only doing this for Xie Wuyue's sake. With Xie Wuyue unable to help, all problems land on him. With the labor office being Xie Wuyue's grand plan, if it goes belly up, he'll take the fall. Being under so much pressure forced him to reassess the situation and show his goodwill to us. Even apologize. We shouldn't mock him for reaching out. But even if we do, he'd be smiling harder, making us smack him harder still. Ha ha ha. Second Elder mocked. The other two joined. Venerable Shi nodded. Exactly. Does he really think we're just going to give up after a little chat? Humph. We're going to come on him so hard, there'll be nothing left of him or the elite labor office. And he brought this upon himself too. Venerable Shi, we will definitely make the punk have no dignity to speak of after this. He might even commit suicide. Ha. The two snickered on their way to the banquet. Venerable Shi's crafty grin only grew and grew. Chapter 587, Elite Strife. Chapter 587, Elite Strife. In a quaint pavilion, a girl was pacing around bored and kicked the water. When the boredom got the best of her, it was none other than one of the culprits that had wrecked the labor office. Peng Yujuan fiend Yang chewed her out the instant he got back, though he couldn't do much else. Not with a good excuse in place, and the elders on their backs a mere slap on the wrist. The fiends didn't want to blow out and refrained from being harsher, only putting them on house arrest. In Yujuan's case, she was so bored that she had nothing better to do than to kick water. Junior sister Yujuan is so refined and elegant as she plays in the water. Yujuan paused mid-kick and mocked. What else is there to do? While I'm stuck at home for so long, it's either this or go stir crazy. With a snicker, Chi-Feng walked over and whispered in her ear. She perked up in an instant. You really brought your grandpa's halberd? Grandpa gave it to me. He figured the 3 old coots will do something like this and gave me the 7th grade demonic treasure. And this heaven piercer can crush any barrier. The old coots might have set one up around the elite area, but we can now just walk out of it. Chi-Feng raised a smug eyebrow. Yujuan was giddy, jumping all over. What are we waiting for? Let's blow this barrier open and go have some real fun. Hey, junior sister, I'm not done talking yet. Why the rush? Chi-Feng cut her enthusiasm by holding her back. As his eyes glinted, he laughed at her perplexity. Junior sister, we're not out on a stroll. Grandpa gave me the heaven piercer and a mission. It's not just to get out of this boredom, but to do something as well. What, tell me? You know, we're like 2 peas in a pod. Your problem is my problem. She hit her chest with pride. Chi-Feng nodded and smiled. Nothing hard, just go wilder this time. Do you know why the old coots have gotten us stuck here? Or why they've forbidden elites from leaving the area? Why? Batting her big eyes, Yujuan asked. Engrossed Chi-Feng grinned. You wouldn't believe even if I told you. After he messed up the labor office, they're now holding an apology banquet. Our two grandpas and the old coots represent us in accepting the apology. If we go as well, we be sure to humiliate and taunt them until they can't hold it in. That will give our grandpas the excuse to crush the labor office. But the old coots want to avoid it at all costs. Really? Yujuan laughed after a moment. Who the hell is that spineless elder or venerable running labor office anyway? He got smacked around the first time, and now he turns the other cheek forward. There's no way such a guy can match the intersex venerables and elders employees. Hi. Chi-Feng nodded. I heard the one leading the labor office is just a disciple. No elder or venerable would just bend a knee like this. And the guy is even sect leader's aide, forcing the others to listen to him. But I bet that after this stunt, none of them will ever give him any attention. Aide? Hi. He only cares about elites, yet he trusted this important task to someone out of his circle? No way a disciple can match the elders and venerables, and now look at him, bowing down to apologize. Yujuan giggled with a naughty glint in her eyes. Then she grabbed Chi-Feng and ran outside. What are we waiting for? We have a job to do. I'm dying to see which cowardly disciple thought himself so high and mighty and now is about to get a beating. Chi-Feng smiled along, a fool without a doubt. He must have got sect leader's favor to lead this job, and now he's in a sorry state for botching the job. All he can do is give up, ha. Yujuan giggled as the two went for the barrier whoosh. Just then, a white ribbon shot for their heads. They panicked and barely dodged it. The ribbon slammed into a cliff like a sword, right as a gentle lady floated down on it. Her smile was bright, but her eyes were deadly cold. The elite area is sealed. No one can get in or out, especially you two brats. Did you forget already? Oh, it's Senior Sister by Lien. And here I thought it's someone important. Yujuan mocked. Just like how venerable Bai can't handle our grandpas, neither can you touch us. Bai Lien said, Grandfather may be a venerable and displeased with some people, but it has nothing to do with me. I have not come here to settle grudges, but to uphold the rules. Cool. Chi-Feng gave his thumbs up. I do admire Senior Sister's civic duty. It's why I like you. But it's best that you turn a blind eye today. We're of the same cultivation, and Yujuan is in the 4th layer radiant stage. With 2-on-1, Senior Sister can't handle us both. Well, aren't you confident? Her smooth eyebrow arched in a taunt. Chi-Feng, you've not once beaten me. What did you get so cocky? Ha. Chi-Feng laughed. Senior Sister, that is because of my endless and undeniable admiration for you. But now that I have a job to do, I can't go easy on you anymore. So you mean you've always held back? Why else? You think some broad like you can ever match me? Chi-Feng's sneer. Bai Lien nodded. Then let me see what you're really made of. Bai Lien shot for the two as the white ribbon flew in her hand. The massive Yuan Chi made the couple tense up and dodge away. Boom. What was left behind was a dozens of meter deep crater ruining the place. Chi-Feng was startled while Yujuan paled. He could put up a tough front all he wanted, but he knew fully well that Bai Lien was as strong as him, even though he never went all out against her till now. He knew that even if he did that, victory wasn't certain. Choosing instead to bide his time for the right moment to finish her off, he never thought that time would be now. Firestorm. Seeing the hundreds of ribbons coming at them again, Chi-Feng swiped with his 2 fingers and a fire sea exploded forward. Yujuan got to work as well, holding her palms together and unleashing a tornado into the fire sea to amplify its power while weaker. The two made for a good match in skills and increased Chi-Feng's move's power by 40%. Moon's Wind Embrace. Yujuan shouted again at this point. Bai Lien turned serious. The hundreds of ribbons shot like meteors, absorbing the fire and wind, then smashing into the couple meteor shower. Feeling that great power upon them, the two were startled. Even women were capable of incredible feats, but then a cool breeze made the meteors fizzle out before they could hit them, ending up slumping on the ground. The grass withered and the earth turned black. Chapter 588, True Intent. Chapter 588, True Intent. Acid Rain, Lucia. Bai Lian shouted. A laughter came. Junior sister Bai Lian. Let's all take it easy so we might meet again. The two juniors are only going out to get some fresh air. What's the harm in that? Whoosh. A youth in green floated down, his smile twisted, and his power making even Bai Lian falter back 5 steps. He got even stronger. Bai Lian squinted. Chi Feng was overjoyed. Senior brother Lucia, you're out of seclusion. What great timing. Ha ha ha. I've been out for a while now, and I'm only here now to help. Lucia snickered. You do your job, and I'll handle mine. And that's to get you out of here. Chi Feng bobbed his head. Ha! Senior brother Lucia is Venerable Shi's prized pupil. We're on the same side. Lucia nodded and turned to the frosty Bai Lian. Junior sister, with me in the 9th layer of Radiant Stage, and you being in the 8th, there's no way you can win. I am not one to be lenient in my attacks, but out of respect for Venerable Bai, I hope you won't fight me, and will let them go. While each one of them had a big shot behind them, neither wanted to take things too far. As disciples, incurring the wrath of an elder or venerable, even when under sect leader's protection, they would still suffer the consequences the sect's rule, stating they couldn't kill disciples might protect them if they went after some nobody disciples, while killing the precious kin of some elder would leave them with no place to hide. All that was left to do against a madman bent on taking you down with him was to give in and die. That being said, while all elites were savages and cruel, they knew when to stop. Like now, for instance, Lucia had Venerable Shi behind him, but killing Venerable Bai's granddaughter would render Venerable Shi's protection useless. Bai Lian took a deep breath and shouted, Lucia, the 3 venerables have asked us to patrol the barrier and stop anyone who exits it. You know me well enough to know that I'm not going to stop just because of a few words. Ha ha, true. Lucia chuckled. I'd have let this one go if it were any other time, but oh well. Lucia's eyes hardened, and he shot a green whirlwind at Bai Lian. The pressure took her breath away. Even more so, when the acid within could even melt her bones. The caustic scent spread its foul odor everywhere. Bai Lian faltered 3 steps. Coming to an impasse, she knew Lucia was going easy, or he'd be striking with something she couldn't cope with. Without even giving her a chance to breathe, Lucia wanted her to get lost. If you can't even stop this, scram. Bai Lian felt even more morose. Just this first strike showed the gap between their levels. Lucia snickered at her difficultly. The mockery enraging Bai Lian. Lucia, your arrival won't change a thing. The shout announced the arrival of a yellow light shooting from the ground, meeting the green whirlwind and scattering its earth canopy. Crack! Lucia was pushed 2 steps back with a dark face whoosh. A youth in gray with sharp features, blue eyes, pointy nose and thick lips, as well as large ears, stood next to Bai Lian. The mood of the other 3 sank. Lucia gnashed his teeth. Chi Changlong, you're out too? Just in time too. Who else can stop your murderous tendencies? Lucia. Chi Changlong snorted and barked at the pair. You too, I know what you've done, and Fiendine warned me that you'll be up to something. You won't get to touch labor office again. Big words for someone who's alone. You can't stop all of us. Lucia glared. Chi Changlong, it's time for me to take that best elite title from you. Here now. Chi Changlong mocked. Lucia, you've been after for a while now. A shame you'll never have it. We'll know after we fight. You're no match for me after my seclusion. I will take that best elite title, and after the Double Dragon Gathering, I'll become the sect leader's successor. Go ahead and try. Chi Changlong snorted. The two were at odds, ready to come to blows at any second. Chi Feng and Yujuan tensed. This was a fight to settle the next sect leader. Lucia was always 1 step short of beating Chi Changlong, but had always worked hard to overcome this small gap. The two ended up as Lucia supporters. Give him hell, senior brother. Then they thought better of it. Chapter 589, Sweeping Elites. Chapter 589, Sweeping Elites. Who? A domineering wave swept everyone like solidified bloodthirst, like an unending flood coming to drown them. Like the world crashing down on them, their hearts were stricken with utter disbelief At this display, some fresh radiant stage nobody labor just released a more savage aura than their masters. Who the hell is this guy? The more they looked into Joie Fan's eyes, the worse they felt. Like facing a peak radiant stage expert. Joie Fan, you two-bit filthy labor would dare come to the elite area? Suicidal much? Chi Feng threatened, while shying 2 steps away. His cawing had the same tone and attitude. Yet even a blind man could tell that he was running away. Why else would he waste time prattling instead of outright fighting? Monologuing only cemented his cowardice, all bark and no bite. A true boss on his turf would not just stand by and attack at once. All this while, Joie Fan had a creepy little smile on his face and shook his head in utter disappointment. All of them were at a standstill, with no one moving a muscle. What the hell? Whose turf is this again? Near-peak Radiant Stage experts are just standing by, instead of attacking a fresh Radiant Stage cultivator, yet the ones affected by the flood of bloodthirst found it totally appropriate. Their instincts were screaming at them that this guy was no pushover. Chi Feng reacted the worst of them all. He was sweating like a pig from the eerie vibe that he was getting, that not even Guei Hu could match. Guei Hu's power wasn't focused, while this guy unleashed it all upon them with impunity. After fighting Guei Hu and meeting Joie Fan, Chi Feng came to learn the meaning of worlds apart. If Guei Hu was merely a wolf's pup, this guy was a demon having gone through thousands of killing fields. It's obvious now that this kid isn't the sect leader's aide for nothing. Chi Feng's heart was a mess. Joie Fan grinned as he watched them. You two made quite a scene a few days ago at the labor office, and even said it was the labor office's challenge. So what? Aren't you apologizing for it? Yujuan screamed her moral high ground, even while she shifted ever so slowly behind Chi Feng. Joie Fan nodded. True, I admit to everything. As for what comes next, it's not important. Ha ha ha. Since you proclaim that the laborers disrespect their betters, here, I am disrespecting you all. By sex rules, when a low status fights another disciple of higher status, the capital punishment isn't pursued. So, are you coming at me all at once or one at a time? Joie Fan eyed the couple, holding the broom over his shoulder, yet those eyes drove fear into the two's hearts. Fresh Radiant Stage cultivation aside, that thick bloodthirst was a blatant sign of what was about to happen. Joie Fan, there may be such a rule, but since it's outside of any competition, they can refuse your challenge. And since you've burst into the elite area, you've broken the rules. It is you who has some answering to do. Lucia shouted. Joie Fan raised an eyebrow and shook his head since he couldn't ascertain Joie Fan's capabilities. He tried shielding the couple. By saying this, he was actually alluding that Joie Fan would have to fight the entire elite area. Let's fight if you want, but can you take all of us? Would Joie Fan shaken his boots due to some scamps? Joie Fan put on his most condescending and demeaning smile as he taunted them. Stop barking and fight already. Aren't there more of you? Don't worry. I will take full responsibility, since this time, it's the truth. Cocky prick. Their faces shook with annoyance, and this comment made them all see him as an enemy. Even the earlier infighting stopped. We don't give a flying damn about those two, but how dare you come to challenge the elite area? What do you take us for, dirt? Though he is a weird one. Chi Changlong and Bai Lian looked at Joie Fan with hostility. Lu Xie had a smug smile. The fool has dug his own grave by challenging everyone. No matter how freaky he is, no fresh Radiant Stage cultivator can take on all elites. And when those foolish laborers hear of this, they'll never set foot here. Huh, 2 birds with 1 stone. Lu Xie cackled in his delusions as his eyes shone with an eerie green glow. The couple now had some good shoulders to lean on and shed all their fear. Whoosh. What came next were tens of people in fancy clothes surrounding the scene. One of them cupped his hands at them and said, "Seniors, this guy just broke the elite area's barrier. We were just about to capture him, but he moved too fast. Thank you, seniors, for holding him down. Breaking the sex barriers isn't how you challenge one's seniors." Lu Xie grinned, having found Joie Fan's weakness. Even if we kill you now, the sect leader can't touch us. Joie Fan saw through him and laughed. True, if you can kill me, that is. Ah, not me, but us. Lucia took it upon himself to share this responsibility with everyone present. On one hand, he'd finish the job Master had for him, to threaten the sect leader, and on the other hand, he'd get away scot-free. Don't just stand there, attack. Capture him dead or alive. The oblivious newcomers obeyed without second guessing his motivations or the fact that he was using them. What good would come from shedding sect leaders' aide's blood anyway? Lucia knew it all too well and let others do the dirty work. Fan snorted and his broom shifted. I said I've come to challenge the elite area, so all of you come at once. Sending some nobodies won't even make me break a sweat. Whoosh! A mere sweep of the broom, covered in a red glow of course, had the space whistling. Then came the bang the dozens of Radiant Stage experts felt as if something slammed in their chests and coughed blood as they got flung into the air. They soon made intimate contact with the pavement, landing out cold. It happened so fast, they couldn't even figure out how they got beaten. SSS. The main six gasped in shock at Fan's outrageous show of strength. Dozens of Radiant Stage experts defeated in one blow? No way. How is he just a fresh Radiant Stage cultivator? The couple started shivering all over, incredulous that the worthless labor office would hide such a monster. Their knees softened, and they slumped to the ground. Fan eyed the two with a creepy smile. You came into my turf to harm and kill my fellow disciples. Today I will make you pay by taking your worthless heads with me. Fan shot for the two, his overwhelming aura stopping them from even taking a stand like deers in the headlights. Their minds blanked, forgetting they had a good pair of legs under them to run with. Wait, they're elites like us. You can't harm them. Chi Changlong's sense of duty kicked in as he scrounged up the courage to face Fan, and struck by sending a yellow glow from his palms. It had the hardness of a rock and the power of the earth, and Fan handled it with a broom sweep, crushing the glow and hitting Chi Changlong in the chest. Chi Changlong coughed up blood and was ashen. Chapter 590, Kill. Chapter 590, Kill. Whoosh. Hundreds of ribbons came at Fan, and he replied with another sweep as he went for his original target. He didn't even spare the attacker a glance. His sweep sent a suction force that got all the ribbons trapped in a quagmire, unable to escape in that instant. His broom was covered in ribbons. Fan flicked it and sent a powerful shockwave through them back at Bai Lian, sending her flying like Chi Changlong before her. She coughed up blood as well, and pale Fan twisted his wrist, and the ribbons broke apart as he sped towards his quarry. Not once did the attack even make him pause. Bai Lian was overwhelmed by how useless she felt. The elite area hailed her as one of the strong ones, but reality showed there would always be someone out there stronger than her. How is he so freaking strong? None of us can match him. Lucia was dumbstruck. This labor is perhaps too monstrous. The lucky couple shuddered as they shirked backwards while pleading. Senior brother Lucia, what do we do? D, don't panic. I'll use poison to stop him while you run. Lucia was shocked as well, but was confident in his poison arts. Poison was a vile path to tread on, but not without its perks. It excelled in infecting one's core. You might have a huge yuan qi and a tough body, but poison will destroy you anyway. Lucia shouted, Poison dragon. Who? A green wind shifted into a dragon as it went for Fan. The revolting stench coming from it would send anyone's mind out of commission. Chi Feng was overjoyed as he took Yu Juan and ran away. Lucia grinned. Let's see you fight something you can't touch, freak. Anyone who has ever touched it has died. Even if you can handle it, it'll at least buy them some time. Crack! With a loud sound, Fan smashed the dragon with another broom swing. It didn't slow Fan down at all as black energy covered his body like a true demon. The poison got sucked into the blackness, and the attack was neutralized in an instant. Lucia was tongue-tied as his prized art was rendered worthless. Crud. This freak is invincible in every way. Be a good dog and scram. Fan got in his face and swept him out of the way. He did exactly what everyone else had done so far, coughed up blood and turned pale, though his eyes were filled with shock as he muttered, how? Woo. A heavy wind pushed Chi Feng from behind, like death had latched onto him. He saw Fan right behind him, bearing that creepy smile, which froze his blood, he forced himself to act and pointed with 2 fingers a huge sea of fire shot for Zhuo Fan, and Yujuan, helped by adding wind to the mix, although against Zhuo Fan, they might as well not even try. Zhuo Fan didn't even need martial arts to deal with them. A mere sweep is all it took to snuff the flames. The sweep's shock wave slammed into the couple's chest till they coughed up blood again, and again their meridians burned from the pain. Incapable of using Yuan Qi ever again, Zhuo Fan made sure of that crack. Zhuo Fan's charge stopped at last, right in front of them, bearing over them with his snicker, a god mocking these insignificant ants to the 2. Zhuo Fan looked like a demon made of flesh. So many experts tried to stop this monster, but all failed. Qi Changlong, Bai Lian, Lu Xie, Qi Feng, and Yujuan attacked at the same time, yet didn't even faze him. Zhuo Fan's power was beyond what their limited psyche could think of. In just a blink, all of the elites were lying down defeated. From shock and unbridled power, it was like they were fighting an elder or a venerable. Right. Sect leader entrusted him with elite labor office. That's a duty reserved for elders and venerables. That proves he is no mere disciple. And we just kicked the hornet's nest by messing with him. He's got an elder's power, yet is still a disciple. Sect leader has really done it this time. Qi Feng understood it all at death's door and started crying. Yujuan was too terrified to make a peep and only shook. Zhuo Fan grinned. What was it that you said in the labor office? That laborers took advantage of you and challenged you? Ha ha ha. Well, here I am challenging you as well. Satisfied? Pleased? Content? Bro, we're sorry. Qi Feng bawled like a baby. Bro, you are at the bottom, a laborer, yet bear outrageous power. With the sect's rule, you can kill and challenge anyone and nothing will happen to you. That's totally cheating. Everyone else echoed his grief with a nod, hiding himself in the labor office with that strength. How many have died at his hands till now? Zhuo Fan shook his head. Ha ha ha. How is that unfair when you've got mountains behind you, elders and venerables? You think I don't have anything better to do than to dupe you and to make so many enemies? Yeah. Steward Zhuo is a new disciple and alone. So why would you need to make enemies? Let me go and second elder, Grandpa, will owe you. Catching the hint in Zhuo Fan's words, Qi Feng showed off his status. Yujuan did the same. My grandpa, 7th elder, will owe you as well and will leave you alone. We're only doing what we're told. Please let us go. The 2 begged, despite Zhuo Fan's twisted smile. You should have realized this from the start. Now it's too late for amends. What? The 2 asked. Zhuo Fan said, a killer must pay with the same coin. You came to labor office to kill and harm my people. What will happen to my name if I return to them empty-handed? You're doing it for those rotten laborers? Offending our grandpas just for that? Qi Feng cried, threatening again. Zhuo Fan, are you going to have elders hunt you down for a bunch of lowlives? Zhuo Fan raised a taunting eyebrow. Threatening me, is it? Ha ha ha. Yes, those lowlifes are not worth a dime, but my reputation is worth mountains. Besides, you guys stole something from me, and it's about time you give it back. What? Yujuan stammered. Zhuo Fan grinned. Dignity and foundation. You brats used the time I was gone to rob my laborers of their dignity, of their foundation. Without that, labor office will never stand tall in the sect. See, I have no choice. Now you can pass on with peace of mind. Zhuo Fan stepped on Qi Feng's neck, splattering blood everywhere. Qi Feng's eyes bulged out in shock from Zhuo Fan's cruelty, or maybe stunned that there was someone in the demon scheming sect going as far as to kill him despite knowing about his grandpa. Yujuan shrieked next to Qi Feng's head. Zhuo Fan sent her an annoyed glance. Noisy. He repeated the act with her this time, and the shriek was cut short. All that was left was the horrified look in her eyes. Chapter 591, Killer Feast. Chapter 591, Killer Feast. The others were overwhelmed by the brutality. Besides Qi Feng and Yujuan being elites, they were grandchildren of elders first and foremost. Not even sect leader could touch them. Yet an anomaly appeared and killed them right in front of their eyes. Is he not afraid of making the elders go crazy? The 3 looked at Zhuo Fan with fear. He's insane, a madman uncaring of anything. They all felt danger from how easily the two were murdered. Fearing they would be next on this lunatic's bucket list, Shuafan had no time to mind the extras, taking the rolling heads and stuffing them in his thunder ring with a content look. He took off what he left behind was mockery. And you call this the elite area? The trio hanged their heads in shame, burning humiliation. A nobody just taunted the entire elite area and got their asses handed to them for the first time in the history of demon scheming sect. Yet what was truly humiliating was that they, the peak of demon scheming sex talents, were unable to take even a single hit. These elites were lower than even a laborer. Then again, that was no ordinary laborer. But that was not what the world would remember. All they'd ever say was how the elites were nothing. Lucia, do you still want to fight? Chi Chonglong asked from a crater somewhere. Little Marshall Brothers' face twitched, looking at the mess of the unconscious elites, and his heart sank. Chi Chonglong shook his head. What's the point, right? Even if you become the best elite, it's just an empty title now. No, I will fight. I will have this title even if it's useless. It involves becoming the sect leader's successor. Lucia's eyes steeled. Chi Chonglong shook his head. Bai Lian looked at the sky. Who was he? Is he really just a laborer? Ha ha, don't be silly. The labor office gave us only one high venerable and is under the sect and ancestors' protection. How can it just give us another disciple, even more monstrous? Lucia mocked. Bai Lian, you disdain the inner sex politics and hole yourself in the elite area to train, so you don't know what has been going on. Sect leader brought this brat from the outside. He established the elite labor office and took away the Intersex Foundation. Your two grandfathers are on his side as well, and now the two sides are at war over the elite spots. Chi Feng and Yujuan went and made a mess at the labor office at Venerable Shi's orders. This kid wasn't there at the time, and the elders and venerables were in a meeting. That's why it worked. They thought that the kid was admitting defeat by announcing a banquet. But look at us now. You call this an apology? It's a killer feast. The labor office is out for blood. Lucia sighed. I wanted to notify the master about this, but that brat hit me so hard. I can't even move. Bai Lian and Chi Chonglong were stunned. Their two grandpas were on the kid's side, yet he was still so vicious to them. Then again, the guy didn't know them. Leaving them alive was already mercy enough that cooled their jets. Bai Lian even felt safer knowing she was on that freak side. Bringing him into the elite area and having him join the coming Double Dragon gathering would raise their hopes of coming out alive. It must have godly teammate. Meanwhile, Shuafan went to the apology banquet where all the guests were seated, be it invited or uninvited ones. All were bloody there. Why? One to ask? To watch the show. Venerable Chi and Bai sat along with the labor office's oldies in a brooding silence. This had got to be the most humiliating situation. Even in their lives, the laborers weren't looking any better either. Since plenty of them were outer and inner disciples, they'd now come to regret their decision after being forced to endure such humiliation. In contrast, the audience was eager and thrilled to see this banquet blown sky high and to laugh at their misfortune. Who the hell told you to leave? And for what? A few baubles? Now look at you. No self-respect or dignity to speak of. Ha ha. As for the main guests of today's show, second and seventh elders, oblivious to their kin's gruesome demise, were smug to high heavens. Sitting there all cocky next to them were the elite's guidance venerables, three fiends of hell, followed by Gue, whose group of four. It had all started with them, and they were now here to make a public apology. That was the reason for staying so close. Though their savage looks and stern faces seemed to say otherwise, second and seventh elders got smugger the more they saw their bitterness. They were aiming for an explosive reaction, or how else could they finish them off? As for those intersect oldies, they looked on with cold attitudes, waiting for the smoking gun. The stage was set, the curtain raised, ready to drop it on labor office for good. Venerable Chi, Venerable Bai, we've been waiting for a while now. Let's start. Second elder looked around with a smile. Venerable Bai dismissed him. Steward Jua has yet to come. Steward Jua, a nobody laborer? Seventh elder mocked. Oh, how the elders and venerables of labor office have fallen. needing a disciple to tell them what to do. That explains this banquet, haha. The inner sect's oldies joined him in laughter, despising and jeering the labor office's people now that the labor office had lost its dignity. Its people were tasting the humiliation as well, making even inner disciples disdain them. They would have slapped them dead at any transgression before, while now they had to stew in anger from having even these brats mock them. The humiliation was so heavy, they even came to regret defecting. Rotten Juefan, you've just lost all our dignity in one night. The labor office's oldies cried injustice, and cursed Juefan. Venerable Chi was boiling with rage, yet said, Steward Jue established the elite labor office, and sect leader appointed him as the head of this establishment. We must all obey him. The feast cannot start without him. As an apology banquet, he should cater to our needs and wants. Yet a mere laborer has set up this banquet and still makes us wait for him. He has no intent to make amends. We don't answer to labor office and don't have to follow your rules. If you still want to wait, that's your problem, but we are intersect elders. Get the banquet started or we're leaving. Second elder slapped the table as the intersect's oldies chimed in. There's no point to such a fake apology banquet. Let's just leave. We'll report this to the sect leader as well for wasting our time. Venerable Chi and Bai shook their heads in defeat. Kuei-Lang's group was getting angrier by the second. Only the three fiends of hell were trying to lighten the mood, with Fiend Yang recounting his revolutionary history and great deeds. People, if you find this boring, I shall recount our days in the Double Dragon Gathering, while Steward Jue is away. In those days, 4 fiends of hell led the brave elites to the Double Dragon Gathering. Wait, hold, stop. We're not bored, not one bit. You don't have to enlighten us. Everyone cried before Fiend Yang got too much into it. Damn rotten fiend, Yang has brought up this story for 800 times already and still calls it some frickin' secret. There's no one more outrageous than him, for sure. Fiend Yang sulked at their obvious refusal and drowned himself in wine. Fiend Gui and Fiend Een chuckled. It was then that a disciple shouted, Steward Jue has arrived. Chapter 592, Apology Gift. Chapter 592, Apology Gift. All eyes turned towards the entrance of the valley. A thin figure skipped over, with a humble smile on his face as he lowered his head each time he met people. Sorry, I'm a little late. Haha. Second and seventh elders' eyes shone with disdain. Is this the guy that has the elite labor office in his grip? He might have shown power in the intersect competition, but he won't get anything done without a backbone. He must be shaking in his boots to resort to such a humiliating banquet. Every oldie of the intersect, and even some of their disciples, mocked him, while the labor office side's faces were burning red hot. From shame and remorse of being humiliated with this guy, even so, they did find it strikingly odd how the ever-decisive and oh-so-wise Steward Jue had turned into a sap Juefan, sported the same warm smile all the way to the front table and bowed. Many apologies. I got delayed and asked for your forgiveness. Aha, it's all good. All that matters is that we're all here. Fiend Yang hated Juefan's wimpy attitude, but still mediated. One day, elite labor office and intersect shall be the pillars of demon scheming sect. We must put the past behind us. Sure we will. Second elder scoffed inside along with the seventh elder, and they were both grinning from ear to ear. Second elder began with his standard humiliation. Juefan, you've arranged this apology banquet, yet you're the one coming last. Do you call that being sincere? You better make it up to us, or you'll never hear the end of it. Aren't we all here? Why are you being so stubborn? Venerable Chi banged the table while the two elders bore the same jeering smile. Hey, they're about to pop. It's best if you start the whole mess. Seventh elder jived. Venerable Chi, it is your side that has come up with the apology banquet for the wrongs you've done to us. So elite labor office better kowtow with sincerity for their mistakes. Do you have the right attitude? Why can't I feel an ounce of sincerity from you? We will not stand for this outrage and arrogance, and we will go to the sect leader with this. Why you? Venerable Chi gnashed his teeth, ready to come to blows. Juefan dismissed the tense mood. Now, Venerable Chi, please settle down. We're the ones in the wrong. Seventh elder is right. We need to be earnest in our apology. Please sit back down. Venerable Chi glared at him and wished to thrash the punk. Didn't you say it was their fault? Why is it that you're acting like it was our mistake? Those old coots were smug on having a good excuse, and now they are after everything. There had never been a case where a grand venerable was shamed by mere elders sighing. Venerable Chi slumped in his chair, while Kuei Lang's group were fuming mad at Zhua Fan. Who'd have thought Steward Zhua would end up being such a coward in front of the elders? Their faith in Zhua Fan was crushed, with the laborers hanging their heads in shame. This is taking the camp by defeating the general, ha. The inner sect was laughing inside. Second elder nodded in appreciation, his grin so bright. Steward Zhua, we can feel your sincerity, but the real offenders. Not to worry, they will definitely give the elders a sincere apology. Zhua Fan caught on and turned to Kuei Lang's gang. Don't just stand there, apologize. The four were shaking with outrage. Second elder grinned inside. That's the pig-headedness I wanted to see. And he made sure to add more fuel to the fire. Is this how you apologize? Humph, you better knock that forehead and adulate us too. And maybe, just maybe we'll buy it. Adulate your granny, you creep. Kuei Lang banged the table, but Zhua Fan stopped him from rising. Zhua Fan squinted. To be honest, it's all my fault. I should apologize. Is the whole purpose of this banquet. If elders wish for adulation, then that is what I shall offer. Steward Zhua, Kuei Lang shouted. Zhua Fan waved him off. The two elders pondered as smugness festered on their faces. Well, he is the top dog of the elite labor office. Getting him on his knees will crush the labor office. This was way better than making Kuei Lang's group blow out. Here we're racking our heads on how to make the punk submit, yet he does it of his own free will. Brilliant. Serves you right for messing with fire. The two elders laughed and nodded. As long as you go all the way, sure. Now say that the labor office will never mess with the intersect and elite area again, and we'll call it even. Sure, just don't regret it. There are many elders and venerables present. Zhua Fan clapped back. The two elders nodded like winners. Of course, we are prideful elders who will never pick on laborers. I knew I could trust the elders' sincerity. Zhua Fan switched tunes right then and there. His face took on a heavy look. Like kowtowing was an ordeal. Kuei Lang's side knew he was trapped in this humiliating scene, but still shouted, Steward Zhua, I'll do it for you. Sir is the head of the labor office. You can't lower yourself. What will it make of the rest of us? No, let me. Steward Zhua saved me, and the least I can do is take Steward Zhua's shame for myself. No, me. You've looked over Yuer for so long. Yuling, why is a woman fighting me over this? I'll do it. All of them were fighting to take Zhua Fan's shame. The two elders were sullen, though, to find that Zhua Fan was seen in such high regard after only managing elite labor office for a short amount of time. He could even make these proud talents fight over who was to take this burden. Inner sect lost against him in this regard. They only know how to kiss ass. This place must not survive any longer. The elders shouted, Quiet, will you? This is Zhua Fan's matter, and he must take responsibility for it. I will not rest until I see him banging his head 3 times. The others shook, and their hearts sank. They figured out these two were out to get Zhua Fan by all means necessary. They couldn't care less for some disciples. Zhua Fan shrugged. See how much the elders care about me? Now don't fight anymore since I am the one to blame here. Zhua Fan let a snicker slip out as he watched the audience before stopping on the elders with an apologetic smile. Elders, I deeply regret my actions and ask for your forgiveness. To show my deep sincerity, I've prepared a gift, and then I shall kowtow. I never knew such a masochistic and spineless fool existed. Wasn't it our 2 brats who challenged the labor office? How did it turn out in our favor? But if he insists on a gift, we can't just let his sincerity go to waste. That would be bad manners. The elders snickered. Zhua Fan's hand shone and revealed 5 boxes. 3 he gave to the fiends and bowed. I hope this will help atone the harm that came to your disciples. We all know who's to blame here, so why must you debase yourself so much? 3 fiends of hell shook their heads. and Fiend Yang spoke. This gift is your promise to us, but we understand more than everyone. You don't have to apologize, because you represent the entire elite labor office. Ha ha ha. I shall bear that in mind. Zhuofan bowed Ka. Three fiends of hell looked at the glorious light spilling out from the boxes, taking in the thick spiritual energy, and their eyes bugged out in shock. Everyone else cried. Ninth grade, demonic treasures. Chapter 593. Both at once. Chapter 593. Both at once. Ninth grade demonic treasure. The two elders' eyes twitched with greed and hope. The dazzling light show coming from the boxes blinded them. They had heard how the elite labor office was filthy rich, but seeing was believing. This kid took out 3 ninth-grade demonic treasures, and by the looks of it, they are top quality. The fiends traced the baubles in their hands. Astounded, the elders' hearts skipped a beat, and they turned to Zhuofan's last 2 boxes. The brat can fake kowtowing if it means getting our hands on such priceless demonic treasures. It's all worth it. Zhuofan snorted inside and tapped the boxes. The 2 elders were dying to know what's inside those boxes by now. They just had to have those shiny and marvelous trinkets, yet Zhuofan milked the suspense for all it's worth, until they couldn't even sit straight. Only then did he say, "Elders, I will ask you one last time. If I kowtow and apologize, will you leave this matter be? As elders of a sect, our word is gold. Now hurry up with the gifts." Second elder didn't do well with patience. Seventh elder's eyes never left the boxes. His brain on the fritz, Zhuofan grinned and offered the boxes. "Ha ha. Then if you would please honor me, elders." Ka. The 2 were already eager to open them, but what they saw stopped them in their tracks. Everyone was curious too, while Zhuofan shed his humble smile to replace it with a more sinister expression to match the mood. What treasures could have them so lost for words? Fiend Yang asked. Peering over those boxes had him shocked. As well now, that baffled the audience even more. Just what divine items are those boxes carrying? Fiend Yang stammered. H-heads, Chi-Feng, and Yujuan's heads. Say what? Everyone was floored. Everyone knew those 2 elites, yet here their heads were served in neat little boxes for their respective grandpas. Is he suicidal? They turned a stiff gaze towards Zhuofan, whose savagery was laid bare. He did it on purpose. He is a lunatic and psychotic to taunt the elders so much. And to think we took him for a wimp before, when in fact he has the biggest testicular fortitude of all. Well, elders, is my gift to your liking? Zhuofan drove it in, like he had done him a favor. Zhuofan. The elders howled like wraiths. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they exploded with power. The fancy decorations and gourmet food around them was pulverized Gue, whose side cried out as they were blown away. Venerable Bai and Qi rushed over to Zhuofan's side to shield him while giving him stunned looks. What's wrong with this kid? When he acts, he shakes the world. Just now they were thinking he was some poor sap. So puny they felt like beating him themselves, though. That persona was shed in an instant when he slaughtered others' kin. No elder or venerable of the sect would resort to this madness while he did it in passing. Just what is going on in that head of his? Everyone lost all contempt for Zhuofan, and their hearts were now filled with fear. He's deranged, the worst enemy to have. Now, don't tell me the elders find my gift short. Zhuofan scratched his nose as he smiled. After I pour my heart and soul into it. Even went to great lengths for the elders to be able to hug their grandchildren, or I'd have thrown those heads to the dogs. You, the elders roared, exploding with bloodthirst and desire for revenge. Fiend Yang intervened before things got more dangerous. Now hold on, we must first get to the bottom of it. He began, Zhuofan, tell me the truth, did you kill them? But they were in the elite area. Yep, what else did you think this apology banquet was for anyway? Zhuofan chuckled. I went to the elite area bright and early, snatched a couple of heads, then rushed back here. That's why I had to apologize to you, venerables. Forgive me for making a scene in your area. But since you've forgiven me, all is good. The second reason was to apologize to the elders. Sorry, I wasted your kin, though I do hope you can look past this. Why you meant to apologize for this? Fiend Yang cried. Everyone was in shock. You mean to tell me Steward Jua ran late to the banquet because he was rampaging in the elite area? And he made it just in time to apologize, taunt. Freaking crazy. None could believe their ears that a laborer would go so far. Jua Fan smiled at Fiend Yang. Venerable. Why ask when you know already? Didn't these brats cause a scene at the labor office? It was not our fault, so why would we apologize for it? I held this banquet for the sole reason to apologize to everyone. Haven't I been clear enough already? I'm embarrassed that I had to harm your disciples. But I thought you meant tying broke Yujuan's hand. Fiend Yang was dumbfounded. Jua Fan snickered. Did I do that? I've personally come here to apologize, but since you said there's no need for it, the elite area matter is now closed. Don't tell me you're going back on your word. Not with so many elders and venerables around. The fiends' faces twitched, and they looked at each other with dumb looks, thinking how they had played right into his hand. This brat challenged their elite area and killed their wards, yet now they've accepted his apology with smiles on their faces and a few trinkets in their pockets. What about them? What apology did you have in mind for them? Fiend Yang grumbled. At Kuei Lang's gang, Jua Fan lied on the spot. They're guilty of being weak. The only reason these brats could make a scene was because they weren't strong enough to stop them. But like I said, their fault is small, while I'm the true criminal here. Don't you listen? Cut the crap. Second elder blew a gasket. You had planned for this all along, mixing both of them to gloss over your actions. Do you think your ridiculous excuse is going to fly after murdering in broad daylight? I'll have your head for this. Oh, but you did promise that you'll let this slide with a few bumps on the floor. As if. I'll have you torn limb from limb for what you've done. Second elder roared and the seventh elder growled as their power exploded. Venerable Bai and she were on guard. But Jua Fan merely shrugged. Couldn't be better. Now I don't have to kneel. Insidious rotten bastard die. Second elder shot for him, with the seventh elder right behind him. The huge amount of power came at him in waves. Jua Fan squinted and put on a calculating smile. Venerable Chi and Bai interfered and pushed the two back, warning, "You're forgetting your place, elders. Think about the consequence of breaking the sex rule for attacking a disciple. Your granddaughter didn't die, so of course you don't care." Second elder glowered. Do you think you can defend the punk forever? Clap. Jua Fan gave a slow clap as he stepped forward from behind the venerables with his trademark evil smile. Well put. I feel for the elders' love for their grandchildren. Why don't I give you two a shot? As per sex rule, a lower status person can attack a higher status person without fearing the consequences. I killed your grandchildren within the purview of the sex regulations. Now it's your turn to be challenged. So if you manage to tear me limb from limb afterwards, no one will get to say a thing. The two were stumped and the audience was in shock. A disciple challenging an elder? That has never happened before. No one in their right mind was that suicidal Venerable Bai and Chi were floored by Jua Fan's decision deal. The two elders agreed before anyone else could interfere. Jua Fan snickered. Then, both at once, you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.